Today is Thursday, the 12th of September. This is a meeting of the Pioneer Valley Regional School District School Committee. The meeting is being recorded by Bernardston-Northfield Community Television for future broadcast. It may be streamed live when available to do so. I'd like to remind everyone within the community and within the school committee of our norms and expectations when we conduct these meetings. I'd like to remind everyone that we'll begin with citizens' comments. We will not be accepting questions throughout the evening, so if anyone does have questions, I would ask that you present them during the citizens' comment section of this evening's meeting. Okay? All right. Let's begin. Yes, Sharon.
I have a request. I had a request from one of our presenters that if they could be moved up from the agenda from old business number 4, discussion and vote on intermunicipal agreement, to as far up on the agenda as we can allow.
We do have several presentations this evening at the beginning of our meeting, so I would like to keep our agenda as is and try to be efficient with our time this evening so that everyone is able to do what we need to do and get out of here within a reasonable amount of time.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, citizens' comments? Please help yourself. You can come up to the microphone. I ask that you introduce yourself. 3 minutes maximum, and if you are reading from a document, if it's possible to either email us that document or provide us a copy this evening, please.
My name is Thomson Edie. I'm a retired teacher in the Pioneer Valley Regional School District and a resident of Orange, Massachusetts. I'm here to ask you to support the Warwick Education Committee's Horace Mann 2 conversion proposal. It's a sound alternative that can only benefit every district town. When it came to light that the PVRSD carried an unlawful deficit, the Commissioner of Education proposed options, one of which was reconfiguration. Why then does the school committee persist in defaulting to closing the Warwick school? The model that Warwick proposes is reasonable, good faith effort to do what the commissioner recommends, and that's to reconfigure. Warwick is attempting to reconfigure and in a way that is innovative and will provide a quality education for Warwick children and others who choose Warwick. The Horace Mann 2 conversion option is cost effective. Its proposed budget is built on the PVRSD's own calculated cost per student. Warwick children get no more or less than any other district children, in which case there is no sound reason for not allowing this initiative to go forward or for closing Warwick Community School. Conversion approved by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education would result in both financial stability and sustainability, two things the PVRSD has not enjoyed for quite some time. Initial approval would result in a 5-year funded charter. Based on historical data for the charter schools in Massachusetts, the likelihood of a 5-year charter renewal is high. Imagine 10 years of financial stability. Imagine families not leaving. Imagine families returning each year because Warwick offers stability instead of impending disruption to children's education. 75 years ago, the PVRSD made a commitment to respect the wishes of families to educate children in their hometowns. It is highly unlikely that any of those towns would have agreed to regionalization if its residents had not been given that assurance. Just because that provision had to be set aside temporarily while the commissioner intervened doesn't mean that the commitment never existed or that it can't continue. It is why taxpayers invested in town school buildings. Finally, financial stability should not be the PVRSD's committee's only concern. The district, particularly the middle high school, is experiencing a student population decrease. I'm respectfully requesting that the committee turn its attention to where it is needed and away from the mistaken idea that closing Warwick Community School is the solution to its problems. Please don't put our children at risk. In closing, I respectfully request that you give the Warwick Education Committee a green light to continue its proposal, because it's a proposal that has merit. Your final decision will not be needed until December. Meanwhile, there is every good reason to allow this redesign work to continue. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Todd Dexter, Select Board Member for the Town of Warwick. I'm here just for one purpose, and that's the Warwick Community School. I'm a little bit perplexed as to why on the night that we're here to present the Horace Mann 2 model to the school committee, that under old business on your agenda, that there's a discussion to vote whether or not to close Warwick Community School. And also a discussion to vote to reconsider this. We've been through this twice. We've asked for your support. We've actually been through 2 town meeting votes for the budget, and we've done our best to try and acclimate ourselves to a budget and an assessment that will work for the town of Warwick as well as the other district towns. And this has come to the point, if you decide to vote to close Warwick School one more time, that there are things that are at stake. And the Horace Mann model is set up to save the district $150,000 to $200,000. Whereas the closure of our school was for just over a little $200,000. I don't see the balance in where this money is going to support or be a gain for the district. And also at stake is the green communities money that the town of Warwick has been fortunate enough to place in the Warwick Community School for energy savings, air sealing, all types of work in our town. And we've got to the point where we have sealed and we have completed as much green communities grant application money as we can, and we're looking to turn that money to the town of Northfield for the elementary school this next year. If we win this grant application as well as the town of Northfield, it's up to $400,000. So where's the financial gain in closing our school? Is it just a vendetta? Is there somebody that wants our school closed just because? We're here to give you a presentation on a new model. The superintendent sat before us on December 5th when we talked about ways to improve our schools and how we could find ways to attract students to our district. Well, I think this is a key method and a key way to try and bring students to the district. It's something different, something new. And ultimately, if our school is closed, there's no reason why that our town can't pursue a Commonwealth charter. So I'm asking for you to reconsider and bypass old business, Articles number 2 and 3. To put this aside and bypass this evening and look at this and listen to what our folks have to say and consider this as a new future for Warwick and for Pioneer Valley. This doesn't pay off the $450,000 that we have in debt, but it does give us a good start towards savings and giving our children and our school district new ways to look at Pioneer Valley. So I'm asking you tonight to please just push this off of the agenda tonight and take and reconsider your votes and use them to support the Horace Mann model. Thank you.
My name is Shauna Mallet. I'm from Warwick. I am a mom to 2 kids who are in the district. I went to Warwick Elementary School, and I pay taxes. Well, here we are again. I, for one, would like to know who keeps putting this on the agenda. This is now the third time, I believe, that the committee has brought this up. For where I'm sitting, it really feels like someone has it out to close our elementary school. From a parent's perspective, it is very frustrating. Do you know what my first grader asked me the other day? He said, "Mama, are they going to close my school down next year? What will happen to me if my school closes? Will I have to go to Liam's school?" Liam, for those of you who don't know, has been forced to go to Northfield Elementary because this committee decided it was appropriate to close the kindergarten program in Warwick. This committee seems to have very little regard for the effect that these discussions and votes are having on our kids. They certainly don't care about the effect having my kindergartner shipped to Northfield every day has had on my family. I'm not okay with the length of time he spends riding in a van just to get to and from school. Yesterday, he fell asleep on the way home. He gets on the bus at 8:30 in the morning, and he doesn't get home until 3:40. That is a long day for a 5-year-old. That's in fair weather. We haven't even hit winter yet. Have any of you who sit on this committee and don't live in Warwick driven that road? Do you have kindergartners, grandchildren in kindergarten? Take them for a drive over that road and tell me how you would feel putting them on a bus to Northfield when there was a practically brand new school sitting right next door. I went to Warwick, and I think the education I got there is why I'm a successful adult today. Over and over again, the benefits of small classroom sizes have been proven. It's one of the many reasons we choose to raise our kids in Warwick. I want my kids to get the same education that I got in Warwick, where they won't get lost in the mix. The Warwick Education Committee has a pretty good plan to convert our school to a public charter school and bring money in to the district. Yet you people sit here and want to discuss closing it? Mark my words, you will lose money and students that way. Give Warwick a chance to make this happen. Don't close our school.
Thank you.
Hi, Brian Snell, Orange Road in Warwick, Massachusetts. Like others in my community, I became involved in the Warwick Education Committee to help bring innovation and savings to our district while keeping the century-long tradition of educating our young children here in our home community. I support, as an educator, the Horace Mann II public charter school, believing that this model supports the town, the district, the state, and the governor's vision to bring 21st century learning practices and opportunities to our region's children while bringing the costs in line with both the district and the state norms. Further, I believe the students in Franklin County and other Western Massachusetts communities deserve the same opportunities available to the larger, more urban parts of the state. It is my hope that this committee will be responsive to and supportive to the call from the citizens of Warwick. The Horace Mann Public Charter would serve as a prototype for Massachusetts of a small, rural public school that taps into the rich local resources, institutions, and people living among us to help us redesign and reinvigorate our school and present it as a laboratory for other communities and the state to follow. As a town, a committee, and as individuals, we have chosen to work together with a model that maintains the district agreement. It creates efficiencies and brings innovation and opportunities to all the students of our district. Please consider carefully that this proposal from Warwick represents an opportunity to the entire district, an incubator or laboratory and resource for all of our partners. We appreciate the initial encouragement of many in meetings with our neighboring communities of Leiden, Bernardston, and Northfield. Furthermore, we need a solid and consistent support of this committee and the continued support of the superintendent to help us with this redesign. Otherwise, as in a town, we will be forced to look for creating those innovations and opportunities for our students independently or with other interested and invested partners. Thank you.
Thank you. Is this a copy for each committee member?
I didn't make enough. sorry.
Okay, I just wasn't sure, because there were several in here, so. Okay. We don't. Would anyone like one? If you'd like one, take one, and we'll just pass them around.
Hello,
Hi.
I'm Dr. Prine. I'm Chair of the Board of Selectmen, actually the Select Board in Warwick. And I just wanted to give you a little preview of one key aspect of the proposal for the change in our school, and that is the idea of unit-based budgeting. And I knew nothing about this prior to getting involved in this conversion. And what it does is take the average cost of educating a student throughout the district, multiplies that by the number of in-district students, and thereby arrives at the budget for the school. What this does is removes from the argument, effectively, any complaint that Warwick's children cost more to educate than children anywhere else in the district. I believe that's enough justification right there to put this vote to close our school on the shelf for good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Joann Flagg from 20 Parker Ave in Northfield. My presence here has been sparked by information in today's recorder. I am an educator currently in Fitchburg. I was an educator for 11 years in Gil-Montague Regional School District. The scenario in our district here in Northfield and the surrounding towns is not new to me. I lived it in the Gil-Montague district. I was at Gil Elementary School, my childhood school, when the district considered closing it down and considered moving the 6th grade to their middle school. Neither of those options happened, and the school is doing well. The storm was weathered. It's passed. A statement was quoted in the paper today speaking towards Warwick's collective efforts to maintain a school in their town. The message was that Warwick is part of a bigger district, and when joining, there are consequences. Ultimately, the speaker does not want to pay for Warwick anymore. I think of this differently. In 1957, these 4 towns each agreed to be part of a new district, grades 7 through 12. In 1991, kindergarten through 6th grade was added. All 4 towns decided together. This provided opportunity and responsibility. There were and are better educational opportunities than each town could provide on its own. And there were and are fiscal responsibilities, also agreed upon by all 4 towns together. I think that all 4 towns have fulfilled their responsibilities quite well over these decades. We know that the current situation stems from lower student populations in our towns, which was known 15 years ago and could have been predicted and planned for, and irresponsible actions by many individuals in recent years, some obvious, some not. They don't need to be revisited, but can't be forgotten. The district has failed its responsibility to Leiden by closing their school. It's not right for a panel of 12 people, only 3 of which are from Leiden, to change the character of a town by removing its school services. It's not right. Warwick is extraordinarily exceeding its responsibilities by finding a compromise for its town to the budget issues while still contributing to the district. I hope that unneeded negative consequences won't be put upon Warwick. I can only think that the positive choice would be to help Warwick help the district by voting to support their idea of the Horace Mann school model. Things will work out if educationally positive decisions and compromises are made. I know from experience, the Gill School is still thriving. And I'd like to say that I second everything that the previous speakers have said. Thank you.
Claire Green, Warwick educator, Warwick and Athol District. I just will take a moment to ask you all to keep an open mind to the possibilities that we've been exploring. It's brand new territory, and everyone has said their comments beautifully. I won't reiterate them all, but just keep an open mind and really search your heart for a new paradigm shift. We are in shifting grounds with education. So that's what I request of all of you. I don't know all of you, but thank you for your hard work and dedication to this critical crossroads.
Thank you. Okay. And, this will be our last citizen comment because we are approaching that 20-minute mark. Thank you.
So my name is Amanda Mankowski. I am a Warwick resident. I too went to school in Warwick and born and raised. Most of my teachers are in the room. I remember all of them by name. This entire process has been so emotional on adults and children. And I want to echo Shauna as well, because I'm terrified every single day because I have a kindergartner who will be coming up into the district and I don't know how to direct her concerns and worries. And every single time that something comes up on the radio about our school closures, our kids ask us, what does that mean? Where will I be? Where will I be educated? It's not that our students wouldn't get a good education somewhere else. It's that we strive on community, and then we build our community, and that's what other communities are trying to follow and suit. So I respectfully ask of you guys to please reconsider and please stop putting us back into these stressful positions of trying to explain why our school keeps coming to a revote. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Does everyone have a copy of the minutes? We're going to just take a moment to review them, please.
Chairman, I move acceptance of the minutes. I would note that Tanya attended remotely, so that should be reflected in the minutes.
Second.
All in favor? Jim? Okay, any abstentions? No? Okay. Did you get that? Did she get the note with the remote? You got the note for the remote? Yep. Okay. Yep. All right. Okay. We have an appearance by Lucy Kester for the TAB project for Shriners Hospital. Lucy, if you'd come and join us, please.
My name is Lucy Kester, and I'm in the class Emergency Care. This and one other class are working on a semester-long project to collect canned tabs and lids to donate to Shriners Hospital. We have put up posters around our school telling students about this project, and the Intro to Medicine class is going to the elementary schools to present about the topic and put up more posters. So far, we have collected 5 to 6 pounds of canned tabs and lids, and we are reaching out to as many people and local businesses as we can to receive additional donations. At the end of the semester, we will be going to Shriners Hospital in Springfield to donate them in person. While there, we will have the opportunity to be introduced to the staff and hospital and be educated on the latest medical technologies and procedures. Every donation helps, so if you'd like to drop off your own canned lids and tabs, they can be brought to the PVRS office. Thanks.
Oh, hold on one second, Lucy. I think we may have a question for
What do you
you.
mean by lids? I know the tabs.
Fantastic.
If you have a cat and they eat wet food, it's like those lids, the ones that you pull off.
Sometimes they have them on soup cans.
Yes. Yeah.
Would that work?
Only the ones that you pull off, not the ones
they
that
have
you,
a tab on them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. All right. We have a presentation this evening from the Warwick Community Education Task Force.
Let me make sure that everybody got, our school committee members got the information that we sent by email and sent out hard copies. Make sure you all got it.
So that was the email that was sent with the most recent minutes, correct?
This afternoon.
It would look like this?
Yes.
Good. Yeah, it's in your packet as well. We didn't get.
You got more copies.
She just said they're in the packet.
We represent Pioneer Valley Regional Education Association, the school union.
So, good evening, everybody. Adam Holloway, Chair of the Warwick Education Committee. I'm here with Tom Wyatt, who's my Vice Chair. About a week ago, I sent everybody an email indicating that there was an update in the prospectus timeline. It's changed. And we're going to defer to Alisa Hopkins, who's going to explain that further in her presentation, I believe. What we submitted to all of you via email today was a draft copy of key points that we plan to review in full next Thursday. We don't want to take up too much time tonight because I understand you guys have a very packed meeting, and I think we could discuss that further next Thursday, unless there's any questions. And then we'll just step back and let Alisa present more along the lines of, and I'm sure she'll answer all your questions in regards to the whole Horace Mann 2 conversion process.
I just want to be sure that people are aware of the change in scope for the prospectus, that it is significantly more than when Adam and I were here last month. We talked about a 20-page overview, and I want to be sure that people are aware that we're talking about a much larger document. And but the fortunate thing is that we have more time before that has to be submitted. So just want to be sure you're all clear on that.
Okay, thank you for that information. Does anybody have any questions? Sure.
It's sort of the elephant in the room. It's sort of the elephant in the room, but I see underlined or outlined here is school finances. That financial picture, I think, is a problem that we all should understand a little more before we think about what's further on down on the agenda. And I hope somebody will address that.
I don't know what the agenda topic is specifically, what the intention is of that agenda topic, whether it's to approve.
I don't know either, but I think that if anybody has question marks in their head, they need to understand the financial impact to the district before they vote yay or nay.
So we're not asking tonight for a yay or nay vote. In fact, the prospectus, the full prospectus, will be submitted to you in early October, and at that point, we would ask for approval of the prospectus. What we're handing you tonight is a draft so that when we come back next Thursday, everybody will have had an opportunity to look at it, and we can ask questions in that format at that time.
So one of the reasons why I want to clarify something briefly before, if that's okay, Sharon. One of the reasons why we had requested Alisa from DESI to come is to be able to be here, do a presentation, explain to the committee as well as the community the process from her standpoint. She's prepared a PowerPoint presentation and use this as an opportunity for members of the school committee to ask her any questions that we may have. ask for further information, and do this as a collaborative process with the Warwick Ed Task Force, who is also here, or the Warwick Education Committee, sorry. Okay.
So if anyone has any questions after Alisa presents, we'll still be here, so.
Okay, go ahead, Sharon.
I see this as an opportunity to ask generic questions about the Horace Mann overview presentation. The specific questions to Warwick, we're not going to really have answered tonight or even next week, because we've got financial questions they need to straighten out, and there's a whole lot of work that needs to be done before we even get to the questions. But tonight, to me, is a great presentation from Desi. I'm looking forward to. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Sharon.
One of the reasons that we included the section from the prospectus on school finances was we know that that's a very key topic, and so that we wanted to give that to you in the first submission that we had. So it is in this packet, and it is also highlighted. So if you're like me and numbers send you right on the ground, you'll be able to go through it without having to wade through lots of words.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else? No? Okay. And we would invite Alisa to come on up.
Hey, Kristen, do you mind if I move over to that side?
Not a problem, just so you can better see the. Yeah, feel free to adjust yourselves if need be to see the PowerPoint.
All right.
We'll see how I do with the mic. So good evening, everyone. I'm Alisa Hopkins. Sharon's so generous and kind that she's excited about my discussion. People don't usually get that excited. I'm a school development manager at the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education within the Office of Charter Schools and School Redesign. I've been at the department since 2010, and that entire time I have been managing and overseeing the charter application process for both Commonwealth and Horace Mann charter schools. So there are many questions that you may have that I hope I will be able to answer. What I will say from the get-go is when the charter school statute changed in 2010 to create 3 different types of Horace Manns, that was when this Horace Mann 2 conversion type of charter school was created. The department has never received an application for a Horace Mann 2 charter school. So there may be some questions that you have that are specific to the Horace Mann 2 charter school that I may not be able to answer tonight and may require some additional thought on the department side, and we will get back to you with that information, whether or not it's clearly set in statute, regulations, or published department guidance. So I do want to make sure that's clear from the get-go.
Thank you.
My goal this evening is to ensure that you have, generic is a good way to put it, a basic understanding of Horace Mann charter schools and Horace Mann 2 charter schools specifically. So what the expectations are in terms of school committee interaction with Horace Mann charter schools, the superintendent's interaction with a Horace Mann charter school, but also taking a step back, the charter application process from the perspective of the school committee and the superintendent. So all of those things are part of what we're going to talk about and the presentation that you received over email. So hopefully organized it in a way that will be helpful. I will invite questions as we work through this together. At the same time, we'll have an opportunity at the end for questions as well, so I leave it up to you. I did want to touch upon the basics when it comes to charter schools. In the charter school statute, there are very specific purposes for a charter school to come into existence. So when you're looking at a prospectus for a Horace Mann, you should be thinking to yourself as well, which of these 7 purposes is the real reason behind this Horace Mann coming into existence? You can see innovative appears a lot in each of these 7 purposes. There's also opportunities for teachers. to establish schools that have innovative practices, as well as models for replication in other public schools across the Commonwealth. So things to keep in mind when you're thinking about the nature of a Horace Mann charter school. So this is, if people ask you what is a Horace Mann charter school, this gives you the top level summary of what it means to be a Horace Mann charter school. It is a public school. It is designed to have a relationship with the school district. There's an expectation that it is receiving services from the school district. It operates under a 5-year charter and has particular freedoms and autonomies that other public schools do not. At the same time, it has obligations that other public schools do not. And we'll talk a little bit about the state's role when it comes to a Horace Mann charter school as well. It is funded through the local school district. I want to be very clear that it is not set up in the same way as a Commonwealth charter school. I think most people are familiar with the Commonwealth model. The Horace Mann, through the MOU with the school district, the funding model is defined for that Horace Mann charter school. And as I said, there are certain areas where the school is overseen by the state and accountable for its commitments and its application and results. So this is the autonomy for accountability bargain. The idea that for having certain freedoms that other public schools do not, the school is held accountable for the commitments that are made in that charter application. Positive results for students, positive results in organizational outcomes. It's cyclical to, it's subject to cyclical reviews by the state. It has to submit annual reports to the state, has to submit an independent annual audit to the state. At the same time, that application is not accepted by the department without approval by the local school committee. There is no Horace Mann without local school committee support. So my understanding is some of the confusion from folks is, well, what is a charter? What is it that the school committee is actually approving? And in other states, there's actually a charter contract between the Charter School Board of Trustees and the authorizer. In this case, the Massachusetts Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. In Massachusetts, the charter application becomes the charter. So you're going to see a first iteration of the charter application. It's called a prospectus. And it is pretty much all of the information that the state is requiring that is communicated to the state. You're approving that charter application, and then it is submitted to the state. Same thing happens with a final application. It is a 2-stage process, and we'll be talking about that a little bit later. But I want to be clear, when we talk about the charter, we are talking about the application that the applicant group will be presenting to you. Any questions about that particular piece? All right, so let's talk about the process, which I saw Sharon had up on her screen a little while ago. As I mentioned, it is a 2-stage process. What does that mean? That means between the first and the second stage, there's actually a gate. The commissioner has to invite an applicant group to submit a final application. There is absolutely a decision point between the first and the second stage. So two things here can happen. The commissioner can invite the applicant group to submit a final application, or can choose not to if the prospectus falls short of addressing the application criteria. And that's regardless of school committee approval. So the department has already received a letter of intent. You'll see this timeline here where we say specifically that the prospectus could not be submitted later than November 1st. Now, a Horace Mann 2 application can actually be submitted at any time in the fiscal year. That is one unique attribute of a Horace Mann 2 application. But our understanding from the applicant group is their interest is in opening and operating a new Horace Mann charter school for the next fiscal year, so for FY21. And to have the runway in order to do that, in order to have all of the steps to the charter application process take place, as well as a charter award, and then what we call opening procedures, that's where these deadlines come from. Because ultimately, a charter would need to be awarded and in hand at the February board meeting in order for the other steps to take place to ensure opening in the fall of 2020. So these deadlines are tied to that desire alone. If this was not about opening for the 2020-2021 school year, these deadlines would not be a concern. Yes.
So my question is, if the commissioner is not going to decide till February whether, like, the final, like, go-ahead light, will the applicant group have a budget prepared for next year? Because we have our public hearing in February for the school district's budget, so we would almost have to prepare 2 different budgets and have either of them ready to propose to the public in February.
So a budget for the school is submitted with the prospectus, the one that would be due November 1st. A budget for the school would be submitted with the final application, which again, due no later than December 20th. Yes, it is true that a commissioner decision to recommend for charter award would not happen until early February, middle of February. And even with that recommendation, you still need the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education to vote to grant the charter at their February meeting, which is that last week in February, the February 25th. So it does, depending upon when you're making that budget decision, absolutely that could.
So you are looking for an FY21 budget from the applicant group for their school, or from the entire district on November 1st? Because we don't have a budget that we can even start looking at until January, when we have the governor's first
It's a school
run on
budget.
the budget.
Okay.
So that would come from the applicant group.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and that, I'm glad you're asking that question. So the application is for the applicant group to put together, right? So the school committee is not typically putting together the application, unless, again, members of the school committee might, as individuals, be members of the applicant group. But the applicant group is putting together the application, including a school budget, and it is a 5-year school budget and a first-year cash flow projection. It is a detailed budget. It does require an understanding, though, of what the funds would be flowing from the district, because, again, it's not a Commonwealth charter school. As a Horace Mann, there's, in the MOU, is an agreement as to the funding for the school.
Yep, go ahead, Sharon. And then Sharon.
Since we're talking about the budget, the grant that would be given to the applicant, if it went through, is for $500,000?
That is the minimum. So what you're referring, you're referring to the charter school startup program grant, and that is for all applicants who are awarded a charter, also receive what we call the CSP grant, and the minimum that you can receive is $500,000, and it's over a 2 to 3 year period.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions before? Yep.
I have you mentioned that the applicant in the prospectus has to have a 5-year budget plan.
Mm-hmm.
Is that also going to be required from the district to have? You just need the 20 21 budget plan from us earlier.
So we do not collect any budget materials from the district for the purposes of the charter application process.
Go ahead, John.
Would our fiscal overseer have to approve any of this?
So that is a question that I do not have the answer to as of today, but it is something that is under discussion.
Thanks. Oh, I'm sorry. I just asked, would the fiscal overseer, Rick Kingsley, have to approve any part of this? Because they have to approve contracts and finances over $25,000 right now.
And he's referring specifically to the MOU, because the MOU is where the financial arrangement between the district and the charter school would be codified and would be signed by both parties. So in returning to this timeline, the school committee can anticipate seeing, again, a copy of the prospectus in advance of this deadline, because in fact, you need to approve it if it were to be submitted and move forward in the process. The same goes if invited to submit a final application, you would again see a copy of the final application prior to submission to the department, because the school committee's approval is a required step in the process and it needs to happen before it is submitted to the department. Now, I want to clarify the second stage of the process, because the second stage of the process has steps in it that do include things that the school committee would be interested perhaps in attending, participating in, but also a representative of the district would be expected to participate in. During the second stage of the process, as you can see, there's a public hearing. That public hearing takes place in the district where the school would be located. So in this case, there are 4 communities, but we would expect to locate a public hearing in Warwick. Typically, it is a public space, so a public library or community space. It's not necessarily a district location. That public hearing is so that members of the community can speak directly to a member of the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education about this particular application, and it is a 2-hour public hearing. Where, again, all stakeholder groups are welcome to come and participate in the public hearing. There is also an interview of the applicant group, and because the application is proceeding in a process where the school committee has approved its submission, there is an expectation that a district representative is participating in the interview to be able to speak directly to the services being provided by the district to the Horace Mann Charter School. Any questions about this timeline? Yes?
So where on that timeline is the interview?
So that's the applicant group interview, the no later than January 16th.
Different than a panel review?
So the panel review is actually the application process. Each application is reviewed by a group of internal and external reviewers. So that panel review indicates when that takes place in the process.
So that's your DESI panel?
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to be clear, the school committee's vote in this process only needs to occur for the prospectus part of the application. Is that correct? Or there will be 2 votes?
Glad you asked. We can move it. There are 2 votes. And we're gonna cheat a little bit and go forward.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your presentation. If you have other items, then I can wait for that answer.
Yeah, it might take some time. But so there are 2 votes, and there are 2 votes because the MOU is not submitted with the prospectus. The prospectus is the blueprint for the school, and we can discuss those different sections, everything from mission all the way through to school finances, and I did see folks had the outline. The final application is when the MOU is submitted to the department. So because the school committee is approving the MOU, you have a vote on the prospectus application, and then you have a vote on the final application and the MOU. So there are 2 votes within the process.
Thank you.
Sure. I will say, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, this timeline is tied to fiscal year opening for FY21. If that was not the desired result, this timeline would be different. And also, if it was not a Horace Mann 2, but a different type of Horace Mann, the timeline would be different. Mm-hmm.
What, say it would be for fiscal 22, how does that affect the timeline then?
So this could take more time. So for FY22, you would not necessarily have the same urgency to have a charter award take place in February 2020. It could happen after February 2020, but no later than February 2021. Yeah. So you have a bigger window. Yep.
Given that this is a conversion school, is it possible to convert at a different time, mid-academic year?
That's a great question. We've actually had this discussion recently within the department tied to another group of individuals interested in the Horace Mann 2 model. And the challenge is about the fiscal years and the fact that a Horace Mann charter school still has many of the hallmarks of a charter school. It is more charter school than district. So the enrollment policy requires students to apply and be admitted. So there are logistical challenges in that approach. It's never been done. That doesn't mean that it's not worth working through all those potential challenges, but there are quite a few different things that would make that quite difficult.
So one of the things that I understand is nobody would be required to attend the charter school. They would still have the outlet of the conventional school, and if we did it anytime at the beginning of the year, we might entrap some people who didn't want to be in a charter school.
I will say you are correct that it is still a school of choice, so that you cannot assign a student to a Horace Mann charter school, correct?
Which includes the Warwick resident children.
Correct.
They would still have to go through the lottery.
Yes, yes. And they would have a choice. They wouldn't have to apply and attend.
Right, but if they wanted to stay at their town school, they would have to go through apply and then go through the process of the lottery.
So the lottery only takes place if there are more applications than there are seats available, right? So the idea that, there's 100 students who want to be in a 25-student kindergarten, that's the only reason you would have a lottery. So this is the slide we were talking about a little bit earlier in terms of when would votes need to take place. And we were distinguishing between at the prospectus stage, it is just the charter application, and then at the final application stage, you have the MOU. How the department knows that this has taken place is that these applications are submitted with signed certification statements from a representative of the school committee, and it's typically the chair of the school committee who will sign that in fact the school committee has voted and a majority have approved for this to move forward and be submitted. The same with the draft MOU. It is typically the chair of the school committee who signs, or they may designate it to the superintendent to sign. All right. So I did reference briefly that there are 3 different types of charter schools. For anyone who's interested in these other types that are in operation in Massachusetts, Horace Mann 1s are all of the Horace Manns that existed before 2010. And then since 2010, We've had Horace Mann 3s, and that just means that their application was not signed off by the union within that school district, and they opened without an MOU with the union. But neither 1 nor 3 are particularly the topic today, so we can skip over those. I did want to highlight the other Horace Manns in the state. For those of you who are interested in connecting with those other Horace Manns, I'm happy to share contact information for members of the Board of Trustees as well as school employees. If there are particularly unique questions that you have, that it would be best to talk to someone who actually is involved in a Horace Mann. Let's move to the 2. So we've spoken about much of this already. We spoke about the MOU between the Board of Trustees and the district. I do want to highlight the second type of MOU, which is the MOU typically between the collective bargaining unit, so the teachers union, and the Board of Trustees of the Horace Mann Charter School. With a Horace Mann 2 conversion school, because it is a conversion, and the idea is that the faculty in the building support this conversion, there is an expectation that the majority of the faculty have approved what is being submitted. And we'll talk about that in a little more detail as we proceed. So this is straight from our statute, and I want you to take a little time to read it. Yes.
And this may be a silly question, and I apologize. Would Warwick still be represented on the school committee if there's a board of trustees for the Horace Mann? Is Warwick still represented with 3 people on the school committee?
Well, so you would have to refer to the regional agreement.
I see.
Right? So Warwick is participating in Pioneer Valley School District. It's not just K-26.
I see.
The school committee oversees, it's the full K-12 stack.
Okay, so in that way they would be present.
I would,
I'm
you
just-
guys would.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to
No,
open
that's
up
okay.
a.
I think we would have to revisit the district agreement.
Okay, I just was
Well,
curious.
not- well, but if they've got students that are in the district, they should have representation.
My understanding is, perhaps it would be helpful to understand the movement of money. If the school's approved and it gets its budget comes from the district. Warwick pays its assessment to the district. Warwick is still a member of the district. Warwick would have the expectation that its kids would go to middle school and high school here. And the kids from Warwick whose parents say we don't want to go to the charter school would go to Northfield.
Exactly, okay. I just was curious. I didn't know how that worked with the board of trustees as well.
So we can't charge tuition under this.
Yeah.
Well, and I want to be clear, the Board of Trustees is an independent body, separate and distinct from the school committee. So they do not have, the 2 governing bodies have completely different responsibilities, right? So school committee for the whole district and the Horace Mann Board of Trustees for this single school.
Okay, thank you.
I thought there was a question. Yeah.
Well, thanks. So I see that it says a memorandum of understanding shall be approved by the majority of the school faculty. So are you referring to the faculty of the Horace Mann 2 school or the district faculty in the complete collective bargaining agreement?
So it is about the school that's being converted. So to be clear on that point, as to how you would define faculty, it is not defined in the statute or regulations for the purpose of this, if that's part 2 of the question.
So.
But it is
The faculty of the conversion school.
of the school being converted.
Would be operating under the terms of the agreement that the collective bargaining group had negotiated and fall under all of the tenets of that in terms of seniority, placement, hiring, like in terms of just the total package of what an employee assumes the obligation of the district to be to them. How is that separate for the faculty of the Horace Mann to school or not?
So you are spot on. Ultimately, the idea of the Horace Mann is that everything in the collective bargaining agreement applies unless it's been waived or modified in the charter application in this new MOU.
And just to review who the MOU is between, because that seems a bit murky to me as well. That is between the district and the agent that has applied. Is that what you said? It's between, the MOU is with the district and the charter school.
So there are two different types of MOUs. You could have all parties sign one single MOU, and that has happened. But we describe them as an MOU A and an MOU B, where there is the MOU to A, which is typically between the district and the Board of Trustees for the services that the district will be providing and the financial arrangement. And then there's an MOU B, which is between the Charter School Board of Trustees and the collective bargaining unit as to what parts of the collective bargaining agreement would be modified or waived at this Horace Mann charter school. Since there has not been a Horace Mann 2, this is where it hasn't happened yet, and the Division of Labor Relations hasn't yet said, well, who would sign the MOUB for this Horace Mann 2? So the department's understanding is that it's the collective bargaining unit. We will always say consult legal counsel, but we do have published guidance that specifically says in the case of the Horace Mann 2, it's our understanding it's school committee and collective bargaining unit who must agree to any of the changes in the relevant collective bargaining agreement that would apply to this school.
And it's a great big question mark in terms of working conditions and length of day and so many things that would be encompassed in the innovations that may come with a charter school.
And you would expect to see it spelled out in the prospectus.
Okay.
Absolutely. So part of the prospectus is clearly stating with the length of the school day change, with the length of the school year change, are the working conditions for staff different, their responsibilities, even the evaluation system for staff, what particular pieces are actually being proposed to be different, modified, waived in some way, shape, or form. Number of professional development days.
So it wouldn't be unusual, actually, it would be quite expected that those things would be different.
In all of the Horace Manns currently in operation, there are waivers and modifications to the collective bargaining agreement in some way, shape, or form.
Okay. So it's a consideration for the collective bargaining team to strongly be involved, so we're so glad to have the perspectives so we can start to review that. Thank you.
Alisa, can I ask a question?
Yep.
So I'm a little confused. When we spoke on the phone, it's my understanding that you told me that the union, only the teachers in the Warwick Community School, the union, the teachers in there would vote on this initial prospectus, and then the bigger MTA union would not be involved for 5 years?
So we're talking about the MOU, not the prospectus.
Okay.
But it sounds like
The prospectus does not contain the MOU, and even the final application.
So there's no approval by the union besides the union members in actually in Warwick. Is that correct?
Not until.
We're talking about the application. So we're talking about the MOU and waivers and modifications to the collective bargaining agreement, not the application, like the prospectus and the final application, the discussion of mission through finances. I'm not sure if we're talking about the same thing.
Go ahead, Sharon.
The question is.
Excuse me.
is who-
Excuse me.
Hold on
Who's
one second.
approving?
Sharon, if you could go first and then.
Thank you. It appears that we have some uncharted waters here, and that we're not going to get those questions answered tonight. But it's just going to be a long process, I think, to get all these questions in order and answered.
Alyssa, is my understanding correct that MOUB between the teachers in the school and the trustees would need the approval of a majority of the teachers in the school, not the entire district collective bargaining unit?
So,
Good job, David. That's what I was trying to ask. Like, was it just the teachers in the building?
so
Yeah.
what's submitted with the application, the draft MOU, is the majority of teachers in the building. That is what's in statute. I will say that, as Sharon said, it is uncharted territory when it comes to Horace Mann 2 in terms of who is a party to the MOUB. Because in the statute, it is very clear that with the 3 different Horace Manns, the first type of a Horace Mann, it is absolutely the teachers' union. And in the third type of the Horace Mann, it is not the teachers' union. The school can be in operation without teacher union sign-off or a MOUB. With a Horace Mann 2, the language in the statute is not as clear. And there are conflicting provisions in the statute, and that's something that we can get to later, where it calls on the superintendent to take certain actions when it comes to a Horace Mann 2. There are conflicting provisions in the statute that have the superintendent giving final approval on the hire and termination, for example, of a principal at a Horace Mann charter school. And I don't know if some of you have gotten to that point in the presentation. There's a lot of different intersecting laws in this particular situation.
All right. Any other questions before we move on? Go ahead.
I just have a question about that, which is, would that possibly be figured out as we go through this process and outlined in the MOU for clarification, that we could come together somehow to decide how we want to do that?
I can repeat what you're saying. So ultimately, absolutely, it is in the best interest of all of the parties, and by parties I do mean school committee, the collective bargaining unit, and this applicant group, to negotiate in good faith, again, what would work best for the students and families of the community. Again, I'm sure you would all agree that's the whole idea here. So an MOUB that's submitted with the final application or eventually comes into being where all 3 parties sign one MOU and everyone is in agreement, and it includes both the exchange of services between the school and the district, and it includes the waivers or modifications to the collective bargaining agreement, that really would be the strongest position for everyone to be in.
Just go ahead, because I
Final
would like to
thought.
be able to keep the presentation moving.
So
I know we're off
does this
track.
need to be finalized before the application? I guess I'm still unclear on that. These three.
So the
pronged
prospectus
approach.
does not include an MOU.
Okay, so we're not there.
So yeah. There is no MOU submitted with the prospectus.
All right, perfect.
So we did skip ever so slightly. So let's go back, because I do want to emphasize the MOU with the school committee as the school committee. And we've already gone there. There we go. So I want to be clear on the difference between what's in the prospectus and what's in the subsequent MOU that's submitted with the final application. The MOU are those promises that the school district and the Horace Mann Charter School are making to each other, whereas the charter are the promises that you're making to the state. And when it comes to what we were talking about a little bit earlier, there are two different types of MOUs, but you could have one single MOU that all three parties sign. The idea is that the MOU makes it very clear and transparent what the expectations are on both sides in terms of services, when it comes to facilities, how the school will be funded. And those are the typical elements to an MOU. Typically, the district provides all of the things that might be cost effective for the Horace Mann to receive from the district, like payroll, procurement, HR, and benefits. I can provide examples of MOUs from other Horace Manns. The applicant group already has those examples. At this point, all of the Horace Manns currently in operation, there's one in Salem, and there are 6 in Boston, but we do also have MOUs from Horace Manns that are no longer in existence that may also be helpful. So why don't we... So this did come up a little bit earlier, so I want to make sure to touch upon the funding piece, because again, the funding flows from the district to the Horace Mann Charter School. There is an expectation that the MOU clearly explains the basis for the funding that is flowing to the school and the method for determining the cost of services. I heard a little conversation about that at the beginning in terms of the public comment. And when the different budget allocations will take place. So this is once a charter is awarded, and apologies.
Yep. Quick question. One of the things that I was asking as the director of finance, I understand the Horace Mann too would have their own bank account, but if the district was doing the accounts payable and the payroll and procurement, is there a need for their own bank account? Because we would essentially be paying the Horace Mann Charter School too to then turn around and have to have them transfer the funds back to the school to cover their payroll and bills anyways. And that's the part that I'm very unclear about, if you could. Because I don't know what they would be paying on their own if the district is running those through our system.
So that's a conversation to have with the applicant group, to be quite honest, right? Because every situation is unique, depending upon exactly what they may want the district to procure and what they themselves may wish to do.
Again, we're in uncharted waters.
I don't, in the interest, since we sort of went all over the map, I want to, are there folks with questions about enrollment before we move on? Because I did skip that slide. Yep.
Would enrollment essentially be the same to start off with? Is that traditionally what happens, or it's addressed in the prospectus? I'm assuming. Historically, does it remain about the same?
What do you mean remain about the same?
It's the same as what they currently are. Like in the process of changing from a district school to a Horace Mann. Would the enrollment stay pretty much what it is now, which is about 46, 47, I believe?
So students who are currently enrolled, in a conversion example, students who are currently enrolled can choose to enroll at the new Horace Mann II charter school, and they would actually receive first preference of enrollment, as would the siblings of students who are attending that school that would convert into the Horace Mann II. So if those families choose to stay, yes. But as was mentioned a little bit earlier, students cannot be assigned to the Horace Mann Charter School. They have to choose. So there does have to be another option for families if they choose not to send their child to the Horace Mann II Charter School.
On the enrollment, if this charter school was to go through and you had pre-K through 6th grade, and then the district decided to move 6th grade to a middle school here, would they be affected, or would it just be the schools that aren't a charter school?
That's a great question. So I'm going to repeat back what I heard you say. If the district changed its model so that this school wasn't 7 to 12 anymore, but was 6 to 12, does that change the grade span at the Horace Mann II charter school? And no, it does not. So the charter that is awarded tells what the maximum enrollment is and what the grade span for that school is. Now, it's entirely possible that the school could choose to not implement a grade that it's been awarded, or not enroll the number of students at the maximum enrollment that it was awarded. It could also come back to the department and ask for changes to material terms of that charter. Could ask for that grade span to be changed, but that would be subject. So the same process that takes place with this application would take place with that type of change. The Board of Trustees of that charter school would have to come back to the school committee and ask, provide a request asking for a change to the grade span, get the school committee's approval. It also would need collective bargaining unit's approval of that grade span change, and then that request would come to the department, and the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education would have to agree to grant it.
So in terms of transportation, also with the unique merger of the charter school and being in a district, how is it handled if a student from another district town wanted to attend this charter school? So I will say what I think and you will correct me. They would apply to be in the charter school, and then what is the obligation in terms of transportation of that child to the charter school, being a district student? Like how do we transport, say, a Leiden child who's now interested in the innovations available in Warwick, and who's responsible for that cost? And then conversely, if a Warwick resident chose to attend a district school, who is on the hook to get them where they need to be? And a final part to my question, this being the unique Horace II charter, with a $5,000 reimbursement, similar to the same as any school choice student, does the shared district towns pay that amount to the charter, or is it just encompassed because they're part of the district? Is an exchange of tuition?
Yeah, there's a
Okay.
few different questions there.
Yeah,
So we'll
I
start
know,
with
it's
the
a loaded
last.
one.
We'll start with the last one.
Okay.
So the idea of the funding per pupil, and the idea that there's a difference between a child who's enrolled in one of the 4 towns that make up Pioneer versus a child that's school choicing in. The child has to first school choice into Pioneer to have access to any Horace Mann that might operate within Pioneer. the money that would come to the district from that school choice student goes to Pioneer. The MOU would codify the financial arrangement if there were a differential between students who would enroll who are residents of the towns within Pioneer versus a student who's outside of the 4 towns. So it really does come down to what
So
would the
Ernest-
MOU say.
So Bernardston student wants to go to Warwick.
So that's separate. So then transportation. So we're done with. So let's shift to transportation. So I don't know what the transportation arrangement currently is, right, across the 4 towns, but as a single district, right, in the eye of this particular law, students would be either able to attend this Horace Mann Charter School from any of the towns within the district, and vice versa. Students in Warwick could then leave Warwick, and they would need a place to land, right? So there would be any Warwick resident who would not attend this school. There needs to be a district choice for that child. Again, I'll point to the transportation would be spelled out in the MOU as to how that arrangement would work. But it is all within the district from the perspective of a Horace Mann.
And from the perspective of the state, the district would be responsible for transporting children within its district that are going to its district schools.
So that's one of the components of the MOU. If we're talking transportation of students attending the Horace Mann Charter School,
Yeah.
that's part of the MOU.
So that's yet to be written.
Mm-hmm.
You think?
Children outside of the district that have school choice into Warwick, do they have to go through the lottery process for if it converts to a Horace Mann?
They have to be admitted to the school district as a school choice student. Charter schools are not part of the school choice statute, so they have to be admitted to Pioneer as a school choice student, and then they can apply. If they already have, then if they are attending the Warwick Community School and it's the school that's being converted, they would have an enrollment preference as a student already attending the school.
A preference, so that would mean if there was enough seats, they would not go through the lottery.
There would be no need for a lottery, yes.
All right.
Yes.
So basically, the only way to increase enrollment is through either other towns, students within our district towns that would, I'm guessing, have second whatever to get into the school, or for the district to open more school choice seats that would then allow them to apply to the Horace Mann too. Because you can't, there's no tuition like a private school. So those are the only 2 mechanisms there would be to increase enrollment at the school, correct?
So
you would have to open the choice spots to allow for the children to choice in from surrounding schools, and then our other district students.
But I would say you're not asking me a specific question to the Horace Mann model. So you're describing to me a scenario that I can say, based upon what you described, that makes sense to me. But again, I don't know what other options, I don't know additional context.
You from a Horace Mann 2, how does a school increase enrollment in a Horace Mann 2 if they're not accepting of tuitions? That's my question, I guess.
Well, they have to.
Because there's discussion of increased revenue, so is that in reference to students coming in, or is that?
So that sounds like a question to the applicant group, because again, I haven't seen anything yet, so I wouldn't know what the increase in revenue is from.
Okay.
Wouldn't the charter dictate the total enrollment anyway?
So it would be in the prospectus what the maximum enrollment proposed would be. And there is an expectation that Horace Mann charter schools, like any other charter school, are recruiting students. So they are required to have recruitment and retention plans where they have specific targeted strategies to recruiting students. Just to give a little more context.
And would it be possible in the MOU if students opted to, say, were in Northfield and parents wanted them at the Horace Mann to school, could it be in the MOU that it would then be up to the parents to provide the transportation? Is that frequently a part of the MOU?
So I would highlight, I don't know what the transportation policy of the district is. And I would need to know more.
That would be a question that we would have to.
Like
Right now we
what
don't-
commitments have been made to families as of today, right? So if they live in one community and their school is in another.
What is the current policy?
If they live in their town, they're transported to their hometown.
Hometown, but what if they're in?
So if there's a student that's, I think we have a couple that, like from Bernardston, that go to Northfield or vice versa, I believe those parents are required to transport their
But
own
the
children.
student-
Because our buses and the times, they don't.
But,
and that would be
so
up to
that's a
tran-
parental
and that's not built
responsibility.
into our tier 2 contract currently with our bus contractor.
So that would be an option. If
That would have to be written into the MOU, otherwise the
exactly,
district
that's
would
what
be
I'm saying.
responsible for
That
extra
could be in the
transportation
MOU that the parents would be responsible for transporting their student to the Horace Mann Charter School, because we're already doing that.
Okay, any other questions so that we can move on? Sorry,
I was
Alisa.
gonna say, yeah, I was gonna say, if there's any particular area, we can touch upon it quickly. But I do think we've hit upon almost everything except for superintendent.
The funding, I'm still confused about the funding.
Oh, you will wait till it's.
Because Warwick has the potential of a $500,000 startup minimum. So that money is theirs, yet the district is still providing for the students.
Well, to be fair, so that charter school program grant is federal funding, and there are things that it can be spent on, and there are things that it cannot be spent on. So there are very specific rules around the spending of that CSP grant fund. So just to be clear, it's not, you know, a bucket of money
It's not
that
a
you
free
can.
cash
Yes,
thing.
yeah.
Can I just ask a question? So the prospectus itself, you said, is 80 to 90 pages. And then in the other Horace bands, I don't know if you're familiar with or have been in this position when they've gone through the process. Is this timeline that we're looking at realistic? Because I'm guessing the school committee would want an ad hoc subcommittee to study this in detail, and then our attorney would have to review everything. What typically has the other timelines been for the Horace Mann?
So I can say that all of the other, so this is unique to the Horace Mann 2 model, the ability to change the schedule. All of the other Horace Mann models, the timeline is 8 months, because you have a prospectus that's submitted in July, August, a final application that's submitted in November, and again, the charter award in February. So that is the typical schedule and timeline for the charter application process. Of course, that's not inclusive of what the applicant group is doing before they submit.
Did you want to touch upon, did you have another topic regarding the superintendent and
Well,
their role in this process?
I
or in
did,
the-
for the purposes of the school committee, we can save it. What I will say is within the presentation, the very last slide, there are hyperlinks to quite a few different resources. For those of you who, particular parts of this you're struggling with, there's a technical advisory on the department's website. There's a different comparison of different types of autonomous schools, Horace Mann's being but one type of an autonomous school, as various other resources here, including technical advisory on transportation, that folks may wish to review to get a better sense of what it is that is being proposed. And also, you can reach out to me directly at any time with specific questions that you may have, even just after tonight, but also after you dive into some of these resources a little deeper.
One last question.
Can we just go over the superintendent, page 34 and 35 and that section?
That's what I thought that might. So clearly the school committee is a party to the MOU, the agreement between the charter school and the district in terms of services. The superintendent then typically has the role to ensuring that the MOU is implemented, again, depending upon what the services are that the district is providing. At the same time, as I highlighted a little bit earlier, there's some ambiguities in the statute. There's some interesting things with the Horace Mann that apply just to the Horace Mann, particularly certain laws around the employment of the principal and staff at the Horace Mann. And that is where, based upon specific pieces of states referenced in the charter school law, as it ties to the Horace Mann, there is an expectation that while the Board of Trustees is making decisions on the selection of a principal, again, if there is a principal in this particular staffing model, setting their salary, it is subject to the approval of the superintendent of the district. And the same goes with the hiring and dismissal of staff who would report to the principal. All of this is in the technical advisory resource that's hyperlinked at the end of this presentation. So it is something worth considering as well. This applies to all 3 types of Horace Mann charter schools.
All right, any other questions on behalf of the committee? No? Okay, thank you very much.
You're
Alisa.
welcome.
That was very informative.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay. Is there any discussion, questions? All right. Is everyone back at the table? No. Are you, okay, yeah, you can come join us. There's a seat at the end if you want to.
I apologize.
Next on the agenda is Food Service Director. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Not really sure how I'm going to follow up that presentation, but we're going to take
You
a little
don't
bit
have to.
of,
You're going to do your own.
Be you. Fair enough. Fair enough. We're going to take a little left turn. My name is Michael Honorado. Many of you I have met. Those of you who I have not met, I'd just like to tell you a little bit about myself. I live in Chesterfield, New Hampshire, where with my wife and son. My wife works in education. My son is 8 years old. I've been a chef and worked in hospitality for the last 25 years. It was kind of an interesting beginning for me here within the district. Tanya Gaylord, the finance director, she was actually calling to check references for an applicant, and she happened to bring up that you're looking for to replace a food service director, and it just happened to work out, and very happy to be here. In the short few weeks that I have been here, we've made some changes. We found some accounting errors. We found some service errors that we've been able to amend, and hopefully that helps us down the road. The staff here at your district, and I think everyone probably already knows that, everybody from the principals and administrators, the administrative assistants, faculty, and all the staff on campus, have been fantastic. And this has been a very, very easy transition for me. Obviously, my number one goal here is to make sure that we feed our children. So understanding that, the one thing that I can do and I'm very good at is to make sure that every day that each child is offered a full meal, a nutritious meal, because as we all know, and especially you educators, a hungry, tired child, they're not going to learn anything. We've introduced a couple of things this year so far. At the elementary schools, we've changed some of the alternate options for the younger children. One of the things that I'd like to do is try to follow trends, especially in school lunch. We now do what's called a Pioneer Lunch Bag instead of a salad and a bagel option, which has been in place for several years. It's working out very well. We have days where up to 25% of the elementary school lunches are these alternate meals, which are basically just large adult-sized Lunchables, and kids absolutely love them. One of the things that we will try to implement over the next couple of months is called the Breakfast After the Bell program. This is a program that DESE would like to see happen in most all schools and school districts, and it's a great program. I implemented it last year at a much larger district in New Hampshire, where I was at, and it doubled our breakfast participation. With doubling that breakfast participation, all of the free and reduced participation also led to increased grants, increased money for different fresh fruits and vegetable programs, a difference of another extra $15,000 a year just to be able to buy more fruit for the children. Another goal of mine here is to try to make sure that we are adhering to all the guidelines of the NSLP program and the USDA, and of course, everything that DESE expects from a school lunch program. Some of the things that I have noticed aren't perfect yet, but a good time ago, someone had mentioned to me, a supervisor, that the best thing to do, especially in a new situation, is seek first to understand to be understood. So while you may not see a lot of changes here in the immediate, in the last, well, of course, we're in the third week of school, but in the immediate time frame, down the road, we will be able to make improvements and make changes. Other than that, most all the information on the changes that we've put in place, you'll be able to find on the district's website. Just go to the food service page. Also on that page is my name, my contact information. I'm always available for questions, comments, concerns, especially from parents, which is one of the things that I'm trying to help principals and AAs at our elementaries and here at the high school. I ask them to forward all those questions, forward all those concerns to me. So we have just one voice that comes from food service and one set of answers. Other than that, like I said, I can't follow up Alisa's presentation. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Welcome aboard.
Why, thank you.
Welcome, and we'll be seeing you at least monthly.
At least monthly.
And may I ask, where are you in the building?
Up in the district offices.
Okay.
So I'm next to the superintendent's assistant.
Great, thank you, just curious, thank you.
He's in Bruce.
I
probably shouldn't say that, but I do want to just follow up real quick to the August report, because Mike wasn't in place, and one of the things I discussed was implementing the POS systems out at all the schools, so all the lunches were being electronically done, and we did away with the pencil and paper system of recording and then recording later. Mike did a very good job with working with myself and our tech department over the summer to get that implemented and in place before school started. There was a couple hiccups just the first couple days of school, but everything has been straightened out, and I think that has streamlined our processes and also allowed us to have more timely information as far as our revenue capturing and being able to get letters out to the parents in a timely manner that has accurate information, because that was a problem last year. So lots of good things happening, and he's got a lot of experience. So
yeah, one of the to follow up on what Tanya is saying, one of the things that we want to try to get back to here at the district, and it's Tanya's initiative, but we'll follow up on it, is to have all of our students start using ID cards with barcodes and get their ID scanned every single time they come through to get a meal. Reason being, the biggest reason to be, last year I served 175,000 lunches. And in that 175,000 lunches, there was only one error, one entry error. And that was just because the barcode on a student's ID was literally the wrong barcode. So a lot of times we get parents, and I'm sure all of you, if you've had students and they've gone through school lunch, well, sometimes you get an abnormal charge, and it causes a little bit of grief. I don't like that. I like everything to work just right, just how it is. We have the technology, we pay for it. Let's use it. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, have a great evening, and I hope to see you soon.
You will.
Thank you.
Okay, principals and administrators. Start with the students. I'm sorry? Well, the students aren't on the list, so it makes sense. You want to take a minute?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll have Mr. Burke go first, and I can go after him. Is that okay with everyone?
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. So PVRS has gotten off to a great start. We have hired 8 new staff members, and our final staff member, our librarian, will be starting on September 23rd. And faculty morale so far has been really positive and really high. So we're excited and happy to be here. It's been a great start with students. I've enjoyed meeting all the students through a daily basis, trying to learn who they are and what their names are, but there's one of me and about 300 of them, but I am definitely working on it. But we definitely have some great students here, and it's been enjoyable during my day, enjoyable part of my day to get and meet the students. We've already had some great things happening this year. We've had participated in the bus derby in the 3-county fair. And we had students, parents, administration, and staff work together to paint the bus for the derby. And the derby itself was really fun. We also had people from Pioneer come down and attend it. And we were one of the final 3 buses in the derby, so it was definitely enjoyable. Our band did an incredible job with their first march of the year at Franklin County. I want to give kudos to Tim Burns, our band director, and the students that worked really hard. They started before school started and continued to work and practice marching with the help of students also, and getting prepared and representing Pioneer. Seniors also started their first fundraisers. This is a great fundraiser to increase school spirit, have some school pride, and some fun at school. They're selling parking spots that they can actually paint and have as their own. This has been done at other schools, and it really does. It looks really cool out in the parking lot, and it gives students some ownership of their school. They'll be painted over by the end of the year, and then hopefully it becomes a tradition, and next year seniors take it over. So it's
fantastic.
so, and just so you know, there are clear guidelines and expectations set for this, so just putting that out there. I also want to had a conversation with Brian Campbell, who is our middle school English teacher, who has had past experience in working and directing with plays, and he is going to go ahead and start to and be the director for our fall play, and we will have some information about that coming up next week. So we are moving forward in that, and just wanted to make sure the community was aware that we are moving forward. And our chorus director, or our chorus teacher, also has had experience with musicals and can assist. And one thing that we're going to ask is for community support too. So anyone that has any interest in helping out will have to obviously do some stage work and other things and costumes, and we will definitely welcome any community help that we can get. Another part that we have is our innovation lab, which I think Mr. Hefferman, or Dr. Hefferman, is going to present to you, but I wanted to congratulate him on the work that he is doing at that lab, which runs our makerspace classes, and some of our other digital classes. I've been in there. They're doing some great learning and exploring in those classes, and working programming robots, and some of the students actually in the digital media class are controlling and putting up the presentations that go on our TV screens. So I'm sure we will continue to see more great things coming out of the Innovation Center. And you just got a presentation from our health teacher, or actually one of our students from our health teacher's class, from the Intro to Med and Emergency Care. And they are doing a great thing as far as collecting those tabs and supporting Shriners hospitals. So if the community can help them out and bring in what they can, that would be great. And I believe they're going out to all the elementary schools and doing a presentation. So our sports programs are also out to a great start. Our AD, our coaches, and our booster clubs are all working hard to make sure that our athletics are successful. Sorry. It's been a long day. Our girls varsity soccer team won their first game against Pope Francis. And tonight they're actually at Franklin Tech, and hopefully they bring home a win tonight. Our boys varsity soccer has a home game tomorrow at Granby at 4 p.m. Our volleyball team lost their game to Turner's, but I'm certain they'll redeem themselves against Mohawk tomorrow at Pioneer. And tonight I got to watch our field hockey team play, which Ella is a part of. They did great, and I believe they're now 2-1 for the season. So they have a winning season, and our cross-country team is also off and running. So Panther Pride is definitely going strong. So
do we have a score yet for the soccer game for the season?
I don't know.
I haven't gotten any. I usually get updates, but I haven't heard anything yet. People are confident though.
I'd also like to put out there that we'd like to welcome, and hopefully I get his name right, Jakim or maybe Jachim from the Czech Republic. He is an 11th grader through the Green Heart Exchange Program, and he is here with us this year. The PVRS would like to thank the Dean family. This is, I think, their third exchange student that they have actually sponsored in our district. So it's really great to have some students from different cultures coming in and being part of our school. We do have our open house next Thursday on September 19th, begins at 6:30. We look forward to having our PVS families come, get a glimpse of what their student days look like. Have had some parents show interest in being part of the PVRS School Council, but we definitely have at least one spot open, and I encourage parents to come and get involved with the school. And they're welcome to email me or contact me directly. Also want to put out there that I am working on, but still having some technical glitches of starting an Instagram page for PVRS and linking that to the district Facebook page. So when actually you post one thing, it goes out to both, which would actually help. The AD would have access to that, which then we could get scores and stuff out on a more quicker basis, and communicate, obviously, out all the great things that are going on. So that's pretty much where we're at so far this year. A lot of things going on. So.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
If it's okay, is that okay?
Go for it.
So I'll keep it short and sweet. I just want to start on a really positive note. I felt a great amount of support at the beginning of this school year with Mr. Burke, our new principal, and our new faculty members. I do not have all of them as my teachers, and a lot of them are underclassmen teachers, but I've met all of them, and they seem great, and so I'm very excited about that. And just to be a little bit more specific as to what Mr. Burke mentioned, so the Pioneer Band, we took second place against the Franklin County Technical School, which is just a drum line. I'm just going to point that out there. We are a full marching band, so it's first place in my books. And we and we march at the Big E a week from tomorrow. So that will be at, I believe we march at 4:15, and the actual parade is at 5 p.m. I think that's really all I have. In addition, the beginning of October, we'll bring our Spirit Week, which I will report back to you on in the month of October. So our homecoming dance takes place. If you have any interest in attending some of our homecoming games, there are some on Friday night and some on Saturday morning. There will be bake sales and games and all the fun stuff. And Spirit Week will lead up that whole week, and we'll bring a pajama day and a sports teams day And so there's some fun stuff going on, so we're excited. Thank you so much, I appreciate it. And yes?
What time will the band be done at the Big E? Are they going to be staying after the parade?
No, we will leave right after the parade is finished. Yeah, we're spending the whole day there.
You perform in the center.
Yeah, on the green, and then we march the loop.
That's usually like before lunch or right after lunch.
When we perform on the green is actually exactly 4:15. We got a great slot, which is awesome. It means we don't have to hang around in our uniforms for hours, which is always the worst part.
So Ella.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
All right, you guys are really intrigued.
So, Ella, I saw the band at the parade.
I saw you.
You guys were awesome.
Thank
the
you.
best band ever.
Thank you. We are memorizing our music. We're coming out with some new songs for the Big E, so we're excited. And my name, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Ella Pote, and I'm a senior here at Pioneer. Just so.
And this was the first year you had the flag?
So we have flag twirlers now, which is really exciting. It's our new color guard. We're working on, I think, getting them a uniform, and they will be attending our trip to Chicago with us, which is awesome.
The flag.
The color guard, yes.
That's the ones.
Those are the people with the really sparkly flags, yeah.
As in Sarah?
As in, I believe so. Color guard will be attending.
Thank you.
So what you said, Ella.
Yeah. Yes.
So homecoming is going to be done before noon on Saturday? Is that again?
I believe so. We only have, from what I can tell, we only have one.
There's 2 games on Saturday.
Okay, there we go.
2 games on Friday.
And 2 games on Friday. I know boys soccer and girls field hockey will play on Saturday, and I believe that the Saturday game is a girls varsity soccer, but I do not know who the other one is.
Volleyball Friday.
And volleyball must be Saturday, I think.
Saturday or Friday?
I believe it.
In 1 minute.
Well, it used to be an all-day Saturday
did.
thing.
It
And
did.
last year, so I'm used to showing up around noontime.
Yeah.
And then be there all Saturday afternoon. Well,
Yeah.
I showed up at noontime
No one
last
was
year
here.
and it was over.
Yeah. So the issue with that is I think schools have had an issue playing on a Saturday.
Yeah.
It's especially when it's not your school. Like for us, it's really exciting. It's our homecoming, but for Mohawk to come here on their Saturday is like, I think that's the issue.
Never been a problem in the past.
It looks like Friday the 11th, girls varsity field hockey plays, boys varsity soccer plays, and then Saturday it looks like girls JV volleyball, girls varsity soccer, and girls varsity volleyball.
Yes,
so
that's correct.
10 and 11 o'clock on Saturday, and then Friday is 4:30 and 6 p.m.
Yes.
So
that sounds correct to me. And if you attend, there will be food being sold, and the senior class is doing a concession stand. So we'd love to have you all there. Thank you so much. Thank you, and I will see you next month.
Thanks, Ella.
Thank you.
Good evening. Megan Damaris, for anybody that doesn't know me, principal at Northfield Elementary. Happy to report that we've had a great start to the year, despite a little bit of traffic delay on Main Street as they've decided to do some road construction now. We sent our buses off quite late today. If you get any calls, John, they're on their way. They should be there by now. So I just want to piggyback on the band topic. As you know, we've brought the 4th grade band back in the district. Lynette Snedeker is now at Bernardston teaching music 2 days a week. I'm hopefully not stealing anybody's thunder. And also band at Bernardston as well as at Northfield. Northfield and Warwick are sharing a new music teacher, Greg Williams. He comes to us with lots of experience from Greenfield. So he's still 2 days a week at Greenfield, 2 days a week at Northfield, and then Warwick, general music as well as band. So all of the schools have band, and enrollment slips are coming in, and Lynette is very happy with the number of slips coming in. So we're really excited about that. We have, as always, fluctuating enrollment, and we watch our numbers change throughout the summer. A couple years ago, we had 20 new students. This year was a little bit different, where we had a few losses due to some unique situations. So we were about 185, averaging 185 last year, and we are at 174, I believe, today. I want to just quickly talk a little bit about a couple summer projects, with a highlight of one in particular. But we continue to have good support from the town, and really looking to maintain and improve our building. So we always have a lot of summer projects going on. We had repointing of our north building. We had a cupola repaired and painted, which was a big project. Some roof repairs from the connecting points of our building. Insulation blown in our third floor. That was a finishing project from the energy grant work. And some classroom flooring and office flooring done as well. The Energy Committee is presenting on Saturday at Northfield at 10 in the morning about the work that they've been doing and potentially some more work to come. So that's exciting as well. I invite you to join that. One of the biggest and most exciting projects that was done over the summer was our playground play structure replacement. Our PTO has been working, I think I've heard like kids that were in elementary school that have graduated, those parents are saying that that work was started that many years ago. And it's very expensive. Both of the play structures, the early childhood one and the 1 through 6 structures were replaced. The PTO has been fundraising and also was able to secure some CPA funds as well. That all came together with a lot of work from the PTO, community support, and volunteers. The highway department as well took down the play structures and prepared the areas for the new play structures. It was a really great community event on a couple of not so hot August days. I want to thank everybody that helped and the PTO, but I want to take a moment to just publicly thank Cheryl George, who is she's our librarian, she is a parent, and she is a chair of our PTO. While it was a collective effort, she was the one that was on the phone and emailing back and forth with the playground play structure company, and has spent endless hours getting to that point of seeing this right through to the end, as well as her husband and her children, who were often dragged back and forth to the school from way before and way after. So I just want to thank her and her family for all of their work. So the last piece I have is to just quickly review our school improvement plan that was finished by our school council last year. And I'll try not to take too long because I know it's a long night already. I just want to thank the members of our school council, Ellen Jo Grease and Lisa Wheeler, who are both teachers at Northfield, as well as Jennifer Shabbat and Alisa Alteri-Shea, who are parents. We will be seeking one new teacher and one new parent representative this year as we do some alternating from year to year. Together we worked through the last year on revising and updating our new school improvement plan. It's a 2-year plan to begin this year. There are 3 main categories. We have curriculum expectations and assessment. We have school culture, safety, and discipline. And then we have communication and family community outreach. So those are our 3 main categories. Within those, we have a few goals. Curriculum expectations and assessment, we have a goal to provide a consistent ELA curriculum with adequate resources for effective instruction. And so some of these actually have already begun. Building an updated leveled library is one of the areas that we have been working on and will need to continue to do so. That will require funding. We are looking at our phonics programming in the early grades, as well as what kind of resources we have and which direction we'd like to move in for that. And I believe district-wide, we're starting to look at and think about our ELA curriculum. One of the things I just want to state is that I really appreciate that we have the support of the committee in funding a curriculum coordinator, because that's a really essential piece for the work that we need to do to move forward and continue to grow in the area of curriculum. In terms of more specifics with the ELA, my hope is that we are going to develop some study groups to look at the standards that are slightly revised recently in 2017, as well as look at math and social studies and make sure that just sort of examine where we are with the resources that we have and the programs that we use. Are we well aligned? Do we need to make some adjustments? And if so, what will those be? So that's a pretty lofty goal, and we're really wanting to look at. We've been focusing on science the last few years, and we really need to revisit those other areas. And again, the support of the curriculum coordinator will be essential in that. In terms of the school culture, safety, and discipline, our focus is really on making sure that we are an inclusive school. Oftentimes people think of inclusion as sort of in the area of special education, and we're really thinking about that more in the broader sense, that all students feel welcome, regardless of their background and whatnot. And that we're making sure that we're meeting all of our students' needs. So some of the things that we're doing, and we'll continue to develop further, are looking at practices to help support students with self-regulation and piggybacking on the work that Pioneer has done with becoming a trauma-informed school, looking at things like meditation, mindfulness, and yoga in the classrooms, and how we can incorporate that as part of a daily practice. There's already been some piloting on that, and we want to continue to expand on that. And lastly, as you know, social media has become kind of a big issue in everybody's lives, and it's certainly a big issue in kids' lives, and a tricky thing for parents to know how to navigate as well. And we're seeing more and more of that in the elementary schools as being sometimes problematic, or just needing to be informing kids on how to use technology and social media appropriately. So we really want to do more in the outreach area with getting parents in and getting presenters in because we don't have all the answers either, but getting presenters in to talk about internet safety and how to support their kids at home as well. So we're going to explore that as well. So that's a quick overview of the school improvement plan. Any questions about that or anything else? Thank you.
Hello. I will try to look at you all, but I'm a little bit nervous. This is my first time in front of this microphone, so I've got all my notes right here. I'm Christine Mullen. I'm the new principal at Warwick. I am a teaching principal, so I'm exhausted, and I'm going to read right off this paper now. Okay. We started the year off with a back-to-school picnic that was very well attended by families. We hired several new staff to replace the staff that left due to retirements and restructuring this summer, including a new first and second grade teacher, a new half-time special education teacher, and a new Title I tutor. We also restored our administrative assistant position part-time, and Karen Hubbard, who was in the preschool and kindergarten as an IA, was moved into that position. We are the smallest that we've ever been, at least in my 8 years that I've been in Warwick. But we're all showing up every day, being flexible, and working together to keep Warwick running smoothly. Enrollment is down this year due to the loss of a large 6th grade class and the loss of pre-KK, but there were several new faces that joined us, both residents and choicers, in grades 2, 3, and 5. We're excited to be offering band for the 4th grade again. Our new band teacher is Greg Williams, who comes to us from Greenfield. Both 4th and 5th grade students are very excited to try playing an instrument, and will be participating in Rent Night at NES next week. Over the summer, the Green Communities Grant funded insulation for the attic. The heating system was upgraded, and weatherization was done throughout the building. And they sent me a huge report with lots of words I can't pronounce in it. They did a lot of stuff. So thank you to them. Our school-wide theme for the year is growing and changing, and we will be working as a staff to incorporate the theme into all that we do with children. We've begun by focusing on life cycles in each room to help us visualize how things grow and change, and we will be encouraging students to showcase how they have grown and changed during school projects and activities, and sharing these things and these thoughts during all-school meeting, which is held on the 3rd Thursday of every month from 9 to 9:45 and is open to all of you and the community. We are celebrating Dot Day on September 16th by doing a read aloud that celebrates students making their mark on the world in their own unique way, and we'll have projects up during our open house on September 26th in celebration of Dot Day. Constitution Day is also in mid-September, and we've all been working very hard to create our classroom rules. Next week, delegates from each classroom will be creating school rules with me that will be presented at our all-school meeting. And we're very thankful to the PTO for putting up a new road sign to advertise upcoming events for the school that's angled differently than our current sign so that you can see us from either side of the road now. Thank you.
So before you depart,
Yes.
do you know all of these faces?
I know a lot of them
Okay.
because I come to a lot of
We're happy
meetings.
to introduce yourselves, if you would like, if we could just go around
Sure.
the table quickly, because you're a new face to us, and Kelly is a new face to us, just so
Okay.
you know who we are.
All right.
So, Jim, you want to start at the end?
I'm Jim Bell from Bernardston. Nice to meet you.
Abby Pratt from Leiden.
Let's go around the crib.
Seth Kratz from Northfield.
Oh, you.
I'm Jeannie Milton from Bernardston.
David, pleased to meet you.
Again.
And I'm Kristen Gonzalez from Northfield as well.
I think we know each other.
We do.
And Harding of the recordings.
Mike Townsley, Bernardston.
Sharon Fontaine, Leiden.
Lisa Armstrong, PVREA.
Yeah, we've met a few times.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all, and I look forward to working with you.
Good evening. How's everybody doing tonight?
Good.
Excellent, excellent. Good, good. So it's nice to meet everybody. Thank you for that previous introduction. I'm Dr. Kelly Carrier, and I'm the new principal at Bernardston Elementary School. A little bit about myself, something that like Mike shared as well from our food service director. I'm new to being a parent, so I'm very excited watching the little ones come into school. It means something totally different now than it did before. Even in the 25 years of being in education, it just is different. Don't know what to tell you. I don't know. I live in the area. I live right over the line in Vermont, and my husband and I own a small farm. So I'm really engaged. I'm outside a lot as much as possible and trying to enjoy being with students and education and just family. I've been very excited to start the school year off at Bernardston Elementary School. I would have to also mirror some things that Mike also said, that it's very welcoming. I really can't express that enough. I feel like I've worked in a variety of different districts and had a lot of opportunities in my time frame in education, and I cannot say that it is welcoming everywhere. It is very different in Bernardston Elementary School and Pioneer in general, so thank you very much. Some things that we have been looking at right off the year, we've had a pretty good start to the year, I would say. We've had a lot of movement. We've had families coming in. We're learning new traffic patterns for people. Everyone has really chipped in and lended a hand. If anybody looks lost in any place or time of the day, there's always someone to lend out a kind word or point in the right direction or help out on the next time and to give helpful advice. It's been very, very supportive all around. Teachers have jumped right in. I haven't seen anybody really struggling in the sense of not being able to lend an ear to someone else or to support someone else. We have a lot of new staff that came in from Leiden, and so to be able to support everybody has just been fabulous. People have really reached out to each other, supported each other, and offered time for each other, which is very nice. And I would say the same thing for students. I've seen students sharing and letting each other know where the bathroom is, letting each other know the routines to follow in the dining room or cafeteria, and just being a support to each other. Something else that's been happening is I think about community. So one thing that was really important to me coming in was looking at our level of community engagement. So I did reach out pretty quickly to a lot of surrounding supportive services. It matters to me that in a town that we all really work together. So I reached out pretty quickly to the police department, to the fire department, to the EMS department here in Northfield. I also reached out to GCC and to UMass as well to look for additional partnerships. There are a lot of opportunities, there's a lot of education in our area, and a lot of people looking to come together as a community. I've had a lot of meetings that are happening in the next week or so to be able to support and get some supports back in our schools and just to have more of a community-based feel and to let everybody know who we are and the supports that we have out there. I'm also interested in working with 6th grade to provide some additional leadership opportunities. Thinking about this grade kind of going into the middle school, it matters for students being ready for that aspect. I know traditionally they've taken on some different leadership roles, so I would also like to institute things of that nature. I have been collaborating with people from areas of Pioneer, so Dr. Heffman and I have already worked together in the Innovative Center. He is supporting with one of his classes, supports for Bernardston and the TV when you walk in the front. So being able to have some of his students work with myself and possibly some other 6th grade students around technology and supporting how we share information. So the school lunches, additional information around events that are happening, and just kind of building that partnership so students are ready when they come to the middle school. We also do have the Tab Fund project coming to our school tomorrow for some of the students to come around and provide information to all of our classes. I have also reached out to and been in connection with the American Heart Association, so we will be having a sponsored event. I might combine it with the turkey trot, I'm not quite sure yet. And we do have exciting open house coming up. So I did also, in combination with that, reach out to a lot of representatives to just have supports provided so that when families come out, because everybody is so busy, that people come out and there's a lot to offer. We also coupled it with a fundraising night for the PTO. So families aren't being asked to come out for a variety of things. They're being asked to come out for a night that has a lot to offer. Different after school programs will be there, PTO will be there, the fire department, the police department, just providing information. So if anybody else is looking to maybe come and sharing some information with students at Bernardston and their families, that would be a great opportunity. I would love to talk with you further about having maybe a table or a booth to be able to support our community outreach. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
What night is your open house?
It's the 24th from 5:30 to 7. It's a Tuesday. Yes.
I have a question about the new position. Can you tell us that, the 3rd grade position?
Absolutely. We have a new 3rd grade teacher. Her name is Miss Nicole Harper. We looked at, in very similarly, with having the amount of students coming into the building, our 3rd grade grew rather quickly, and there was concerns that we were up to 27 and 28 around the 2nd week of August. I did share traditionally, there is something about me when I go to different districts. I do have the highest enrollment in every district. I had the highest enrollment a couple of years ago in my caseload. Something happens when I travel. I just shared that I just foresaw high enrollment, and I don't know why. We had some concerns around also the level of supports for the students and being able to provide the best services that we can for all of our students. So we looked at dividing the classroom, and we were really lucky to interview and talk with Miss Nicole Harper. She is new to us, but not new to teaching. She has some experience with several years in, I want to say, Leverett, and also working at the Northampton campus school. So she is very familiar with all of the programs that we use, some of the curriculum that we already have. She was very familiar with all of that, and we were also really be able to provide her with a nice supportive mentor teacher who also is the same grade level for her as well. So she has come right in. She has been hands-on. Her car is there when I show up and when I leave. So she is a dedicated, hardworking teacher, which is great to see. Yeah. All right, well, thank you so much, everybody.
Can I just say one brief thing, John? Hi, I promise to be really, really brief. I just wanted to mention that we, in our department, special education, we started out with some unexpected students. Some the day before school started, some the day of the first day of school, some the week after. All moved into the district, and we did not know that they existed. So I just want to give praise to all our new principals and the rest of the special education staff, because everything went really well. And thank you, Tanya, also for helping us figure out how we were going to make this happen with the unexpected expenses that went along with that. And I'm really grateful to have such good people to work with. So thank you, And I promise to have something fun to talk about next time. So.
Question for Chris.
Chris?
Don't leave yet before you go. I just have a question about the list for Warwick shows an ESL tutor that looks like it's unfilled.
I believe that.
That's correct.
Yes, it's still unfilled. It's really hard to find someone. I'm working on that. One of the programs that I did bring in is using Rosetta Stone to teach English. So if I can find someone I've set it up. I was at Warwick today. It's an online program. Each student works at their own pace to learn English. And they provide lesson plans and everything someone would need. So I'm trying to, they use it a lot in rural areas, which obviously we are. We have it up and running at the high school right now. It's set to go in Warwick. We can do it with an ESL teacher. We could do it with someone else providing that service. So Chris and I will figure that out, how it's going to work. And we're going to make it work for those guys. Yes, certainly. Yep.
John Heffernan, most of you know me. I haven't been in front of the school committee in quite a while, so I want to update a little bit on what was done last year. I'll do this quickly. But I think there's some things that people may not be aware of. That Wi-Fi has been secured funding from E-rate, the funds that were going to expire. I believe it was about $28,000. Anyway, that system was just put in here, still working out a few of the kinks, but it's quite a bit faster and better. There'll be a guest password, and it'll provide the capabilities so students can bring their own devices with the appropriate policies and instruction put in place.
Will school committee be able to log on easier then?
Yes.
Thank you.
Also, the district internet, we went out for bid again and got improved. We got improved service and a lower cost. It's 3 times faster and also less expensive internet. And that also goes out to Warwick. So it so happens that Northfield and Bernardston still use Comcast because it's considerably less expensive for the similar speeds. We provided funding with the help of the administration on 1/3 of each year. Teachers getting updated Wi-Fi and AV systems. They're all wireless, so there's no more of these wires. You can connect instantly to a television or a projector. And also students can, so teachers will have the option of instantly showing students work. So I think that provides a lot of really interesting educational opportunities. We secured many new Chromebooks here and at the schools, iPads, the same, were secured from donations, rural aid, and the budget, including a traveling elementary iPad cart, which is in heavy use by the elementary tech teacher who's doing a great job. And she has introduced K-6 robotics to the schools, and hopefully parents are hearing about that and excited about it, as well as she's did a lot last year with coding and multimedia creation. We had a big job this summer moving the Pro Roads technology down to Northfield. Bernardston, sorry, the typo. Last year I reorganized the department. There had been a lot of changes in tech directors, so we have weekly meetings. We have a project list that's prioritized on the board. The staff there have annual reviews now, so just pulling a lot of that together. Early last year, the high school was changed over to a new voice phone system, and there's a new projector cart right here. There was just piles and piles of e-waste that has been disposed of. It was really in every closet. In the tech room as well, it was really cleaned up. We identified and documented all the data flows within the various systems in the district, which had not been done and not well understood. We're setting up now, the nurses got a really fantastic $10,000, I believe, grant for new laptops and print fax copy machines, and they're also moving to a cloud-based student management system, which should be a lot better in terms of not having to do updates ourselves and store data. When I came, there was tons of faulty server hard drives, Warwick server had died, and there hadn't been a good backup, so it was a very worrying situation. So that was all straightened out, and now we have good server hard drives with backups. We supported student tech helpers and independent project, like I think I might have come here and talked about the Coca-Cola challenge, where a student went out to the local Coke distribution facility and was challenged to implement a new kind of dolly, a robotic dolly for them to show. We did the new message board software.
What happened with that? What happened with the challenge?
He designed this robot, yep. And that was his independent study. I have some pictures, so that could be a presentation.
Yeah, I've been curious about that.
Yes.
Can they be put on the website?
Yes.
That would just be so great for the student to see that on the website.
We replaced the audio at the language lab way down in the corner. The Apple devices in the district had been managed in about 7 different ways, so those were brought into one management system. And going forward, it's just it's a lot better. I did an elementary PD day with Tufts Center for Engineering Education, an outreach for elementary teachers. And finally, supported the Innovation Center teacher last year and worked on making that a better space. If you've been over there, you've seen them, we took down the wall. It's just a lot brighter, a lot bigger. However, it was so new and exciting, and the teacher there did not stay with us, so I decided to take that job and go back to my first love, which is teaching. So, back to the teacher. And I wanted to show you a few highlights of what's been going on in that. We're calling it the Innovation Center. I think makerspace means a lot of different things to different people. So what we're trying to get at is really students innovating, creating, designing. Not just kind of messing with technology, although that's part of it. So this is a student, this is our one makerspace class is now a 7th grade class where students come in and do mess around with different robot kits. This young man, this kid, it's like a kid in a candy store. He just lives and breathes this stuff. He's always telling me what robot kit he's going to get, the various trade-offs and costs. And you'll see a little video clip of him in a minute. This is some robotics we're doing in grades 7 and 8. I was hired 2 days before school, so I'm kind of reusing some projects I did and doing them with different classes. But in this project, you can see the different shapes. So students have to build and program robots to make those different shapes. So there's a lot of math involved, and we talk about regular polygons and the angles and so forth, the speeds. So there's some 7th and 8th grade students, and you can see most of them working in it with a partner too, so we're teaching those 21st century skills. This is engineering exploration rotation. We have some circuits on the left. So the students rotate between these different stations. The other picture is 2 girls doing a 3D printing project. So that's one of a very popular rotation. They were actually making a minion today. I was getting a little worried how many they would make and if they would be good or evil. So they said they would be good overlords to their minions there. Here's some more of the engineering exploration. They're making some robots with some different robot kits I had. Other students are taking apart old computers. This ties in with the e-waste. And learning the parts of the different computers. And a girl on the top is doing some 3D Google glasses, some virtual reality explorations. And here's our engineering exploration. I have a little video here.
So this is the vending machine, and this is the rotation sensor, and then this is the mechanism of it with the small motor. So I push the button, and I can push the button down, and it'll give you something.
So this student, he invented this himself in like one class, and it just worked flawlessly. And when I would tell the other students, you can either invent something yourself or make one of the Lego provided robots. He was trying to convince the other kids, no, make it yourself, make it yourself. And this is some of my high school students doing a dragster challenge. And it's interesting how far they can take it compared to the middle school students. And this is Isaac, who, I'll pass this robot around, did a really fantastic job. He used compound gearing, which is very difficult, and must have went through probably 50 iterations with his partner, Henry, and just got that working today, and they were just so happy and proud that he got it to go 7 feet per second, which is 7 times faster than the baseline robot they did. And I think Dr. Carrier mentioned this, but this is our two of our students interviewing her as a client and getting requirements for her message board. So we're trying to really get the students in get those skills they need to get out in the workforce. And why not start as young as possible? So that's all I had. Yeah.
Thank you. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. The school year is off to a terrific start. The staff across the district has expressed excitement for this upcoming school year. New principals in 3 of our 4 schools, as well as several new teaching faculty, provide opportunities for new ideas and positive growth throughout the district. I felt that tremendous energy as I visited all of the schools at the start of the year. I observed excited students and welcoming creative classrooms that teachers put so much work into, making sure their learning environment is engaging and comfortable. Over the past few days, I've talked to happy parents who are praising how well the start of this year has been for them and their children. I look forward to a stellar year for the Pioneer Valley Regional School District, standing out as an innovative, always evolving, academically thriving educational leader in Franklin County. Our music, theater, arts, sports, clubs, and other extracurricular activities are gearing up for a strong year ahead. 4th grade band is back in all of our elementary schools. I want to emphasize that if any student in our district wants to play an instrument and may not be able to afford to rent an instrument, we will provide an instrument for that child to be able to participate. I've already had discussions with our musical instrument provider to make sure we provide this opportunity to all students in our district. Pioneer pride will be powerful and on display in all that we do this year. I appreciate that we all are working together to make this happen. I want to recognize Stacy Musso, who's pursuing a new career opportunity as of September 27th. Stacy, if you're watching this, I'm going to miss you tremendously. I am so thankful to Stacy for everything that she has contributed to making Pioneer a better school district. She is truly a remarkable person and will be missed by all dearly. I am, however, pleased to announce that Joann Wallace will be the new administrative assistant. Joann has been the executive administrative assistant to the superintendent in Greenfield Public Schools for the past 6 years. Prior to her current position, Joann worked at the Deerfield Elementary School and for the Gill-Montague Regional School District, bringing to us a cumulative 20 years of school-related office administration experience. Her children did attend Pioneer. I would like to thank John Heffernan for all of his work as our Director of Technology. John and I worked closely this past year creating a district-wide technology vision, and were able to not only raise funds to support our efforts with local businesses, but also create relationships with these businesses to provide new opportunities for our students. As John just mentioned, he's returning to the classroom as our new makerspace teacher in our Innovation Center. This is going to catapult this program to new heights and will be a model program, not only in our county, but in the state. I would like to announce Tyler Pless as our new Director of Technology. Tyler formerly worked as the network administrator here for the Pioneer Valley Regional School District. Since then, he's been part of a Western Massachusetts IT consulting firm. Given his experience with technology and being familiar with our district's technology's history and specific needs, he is well suited for the position, and we are fortunate to have him returning. I am thrilled to have the curriculum coordinator and grants manager position in place for our district. This is a change from the prior separate elementary and middle high school coordinators, the benefit of which is that we will be able to more efficiently align curriculum across the district, as well as pursue bigger picture district goals. One task our new curriculum coordinator is working on is the alignment of the curriculum across the elementary schools. Ariel has begun an inquiry into which programs each of the schools is currently utilizing for literacy, math, science, and social studies. She is working with the building principals as well as meeting with teachers and specialists in order to begin the process of coordinating and streamlining resources and services. Another area of focus for both the elementary schools and the middle high school is to continue and expand the focus on social emotional learning through a continuum of responsive classroom and restorative justice practices spanning kindergarten through 12th grade. The goal is to have a flow between elementary and middle school, ensuring the culture of our schools is consistent with our values and is intentional in its support of students' social and emotional health, while also providing deeper standards-based content mastery. The big picture is to nurture a rich and aligned experience through which our students will become graduates who possess foundational and transferable skills for becoming active and successful contributors to society. Ariel also brings to the position a vision of what she calls classroom without walls. This aligns with the work done last year by John Heffernan and I, where the focus was integrating innovative technology district-wide within the curriculum using robotics, coding, new devices, and programming. Classrooms without walls will encompass a variety of ways our schools might evolve to better meet a changing world and career market, harnessing the powers of collaboration and student-driven passion. This will include the vehicles of project-based learning, cross-curricular content, and performance-based assessment, in which students create and do to demonstrate mastery of skills. These are areas that Pioneer has historically invested in, but we are now at a key juncture where growth and innovation are increasingly essential for our school district, our communities, and our society. At the high school level, this pairs with rebranding, redesigning, and strengthening what has been known as the portfolio program. This is a tool of progressive education, a vehicle in which students can demonstrate proficiency in their mastery of content, their skills as learners and community members, as well as celebrate their individuality. This graduation requirement can play a role in assessing the kind of deeper learning that the state of Massachusetts is just now asking educators to explore. I attended a meeting last week where the Commissioner of Education spoke about his vision for the future of Massachusetts schools. I was excited to hear that Commissioner Riley shares the same vision that our district has already started to implement. I plan on inviting the Commissioner of Education to visit our schools this year so he has the opportunity to see the Pioneer Valley Regional School District as a leader and partner in making this transformative change in the way education is being delivered across the state. We are interested in the Commissioner's Deeper Learning Kaleidoscope initiative, which is seeking school district and teaching partners to explore, investigate, and demonstrate new ways of teaching and learning that ask students to create, invent, and to combine and apply concepts in new ways within an equitable and rigorous curricula. We want the Pioneer Valley Regional School District to be on the cutting edge of the research and development taking place to transform education not only in our state, but across the nation. This year, we'll be putting together a 3-year district strategic plan. Some areas of focus are fiscal stability and growth, innovative curriculum and instruction, community partnerships and family engagement, as well as culturally responsive and trauma-informed schools. This will be a collaborative effort, and we'll be looking to various stakeholders for input throughout the process. Our administrative team will be focused on studying moving 6th grade up to Pioneer. This work will begin immediately. We will be looking at a variety of factors, including the rationale and how this will improve the services we are providing our students, logistics, transportation, financial impact, staffing needs and class sizes, academics including curriculum and electives, technology impact, MCAS testing and impact to Pioneer accountability report, the sports, after-school activities and clubs, social emotional support, how we will communicate with our families and community, etc. We will involve parents and community members so that they are part of the decision process. Thank you.
I never like following you because I never have anything written out. I just want to say that it really makes me happy to see that not only are we in a better financial position than we were when we were sitting here last year, but that has made a huge impact on the morale of our teachers and our students, and just the vibe in the entire school district is completely different than it was last year. So I'm happy that I got to be a part of that. You know, I don't get to be with the kids or whatever, but I've learned a whole lot about education this last year, and it's really been, you know, it was obviously a big challenge, but working with John and Stacy, all the administrative staff, has been a great learning experience, and I'm very happy to announce we're in a much better position, obviously, than we were last year. We were scheduled to have our audit done this week. We did move that out to September 30th just because we actually have grants that do not close until August 31st. So it was going to be a challenge for the auditors for us to give them that information last minute and turn around and come out this week, as well as some medical emergencies that some of our other staff were dealing with over the summer, and I wasn't able to get information quite as fast as I would have liked to get this closed out. But we will still have the audit completed by the end of, beginning of October, end of September, and hopefully getting our financial reports and stuff approved by the state in a much faster manner than we were last year. I do want to, I don't know if we want to do accounts payable first or go ahead and look at the end of year financial report, because everything that follows is kind of mine. If you guys can go to, sorry, it's actually the separate packet that you guys picked up that was kind of stapled together in a, had a staple and a automatic staple. I have to find my own, I apologize. I tried to put this in the easiest format for all of you to take a look at. We started this year out with it's the separate report that was handed together or outside of the school committee report. It was handed out to all of the school committee members. Yep. It says FY19 General Fund Year-End Analysis.
You know there's papers in your pile and you go through and you can't find them. I don't have one. There it is.
It's almost 9:45, and we're about a third of the way through our agenda. And these financial documents were not provided in advance by and large, and we're being asked to transfer money. I think we should hear the report and then lay this on the table to a future meeting and get on with the rest of the agenda. That's my motion.
So can I clarify, because I'm not asking for any transfers for FY19. This is simply a year-end financial report that I was advised that there are transfers for this fiscal year that are in part of our financial report, but it's not, this is not a transfer request. This is simply letting you guys know that we have a surplus for FY19. We started off our year with a $227,000 deficit in the general fund. That was covered by our qualified state bond that we received from the state. $227,000 of that went to the general fund. $179,000 approximately went to the school lunch fund after the towns covered $89,000, and the remaining $46,000 went to our circuit breaker, which totaled the total of the $453,274 that we received. The general fund obtained $14,145,000 roughly in revenue. Our expenses were $13,600,000 roughly, leaving us with a surplus at the end of FY19 of just over $500,000. Obviously, this has to be certified by the state after our audit is complete. I do expect to have an E&D certified of $500,000, give or take a couple $1,000 depending on if they have any adjustments they want to make. I'm not going to go through them individually. I have broken out the revenue shortages and surpluses, as well as the areas where we had extra money that was not spent in the general fund budget. We did have a budget subcommittee just before this. I won't go into details dramatically because it is getting late, but we will be having budget subcommittee meetings and talking with the school committee about how we may use these funds in the future, as well as the recommendations from the financial overseer moving forward with their recommendations as well. So it's good news. Again, I'm happy that I was able to be part of this. It was a huge collaborative effort. It wasn't just me, it was the entire administration and staff that allowed us to get to this point. So happy to be announcing that. Again, the entire revenue and expenditure report is attached to that. If anybody has any specific questions on any lines, I would be happy to answer that. Feel free to shoot me an email, and I can turn around and get you an answer if you're looking for any specifics. Does anybody have any questions on the accounts payable? No? Okay. You also have in front of you the...
Oh, no, I just have a general question. we're not even halfway through our agenda yet. Clearly, we have to skip over some stuff if we're gonna be out of here before midnight.
So, in order to do that, someone has to make a motion?
I'm not saying which ones, I'm just,
Didn't you make a motion?
And there was a second.
Can you clarify your motion?
My motion is that we hear the financial director's report and then we move on and take whatever action under advisement, because we were not provided with materials in advance. I went to my 3rd school committee boot camp, which is required of new members. I hope all the new members, you haven't had a chance yet, have done that. 2 things right off the bat. One, they reiterated the school committee chairman works for the committee, and secondly, you have every expectation to get materials well in advance of the meeting, certainly within its 48 hours. This is too much. And in our history, we have run aground financially. So 3 hours into a meeting, vote on, the agenda says vote on budget transfers. Jeannie pointed out that I was too optimistic. We're still under Roman numeral 3. My motion is we hear the finance director's report, but we not take any action tonight and move on to the next agenda items.
So we could,
Excuse me,
Is there a second on the motion?
I just had a question about the process. before
Excuse me, I had my hand up. I'd like to be recognized first, if you don't mind.
Sure.
We have.
Let's find out if there's a second.
We have business that we need to conduct on this school committee. Most of the meeting has not afforded us the time to address the things that we clearly need to do each month. I say we stay on the agenda, get the work done.
So process question, if I second it, we still get to discuss, right, before we vote?
yes.
Okay, I'll second the motion.
Discussion.
So I guess one of my,
Go ahead.
okay, my question is.
Can't hear you.
My question is, are there any discussions and decisions we need to make tonight, Tanya? That would be a problem.
So this budget transfer that's in front of you is a culmination of all of the staff changes that happened before day 1. The journal entry has been prepared and made. The school committee has to just vote on that. All that is doing is simply taking the surpluses from some staffing to cover other areas. We had over 30 staff changes. That meant at the high school level, in elementary, some teachers came in higher, some came in lower. It was a collaborative effort to make all of that work. We had a special ed grant that came in under $100,000 under, and we were able to afford all of the positions within our budget. This transfer vote simply gets the dollars in the lines for all of our staffing where it needs to go so that we can obviously pay these people and we're not going to have negative lines in our expenditure report. So I don't know that there really needs to be an extensive discussion on it.
So is that really the only piece we need to totally attend to right now? Besides reviewing our documents and coming back to you with questions later if we have them?
Yes.
I'm sort of between Sharon and David, not quite knowing, but if there are items on our agenda, maybe we could leave it up to our superintendent to tell us which ones are important for us to take care of tonight. That we need to do, and the ones that are not that important that we can put off to the next one.
So we have a motion on the floor that we have to vote on. Damon, could you just restate your motion, please? Since we've got some discussion. Could you restate the motion, please?
So in order to save time, we're making more time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it might be better for David to restate it, because I have a lot of.
Can we agree by consensus that we'll do the things, we'll act on the things that the superintendent says are important tonight, and then we will move on to the other items? And because I renew my objection to not receiving this financial information in advance of this meeting. We should have it 48 hours minimum. Boards of Selectmen, do you take?
So we're not going to ask questions to the committee. It is very late. There's a lot of information. Your point is duly noted. The request will be that documents are sent out to the committee.
Ask our attorney.
Russell, do you have any legal weigh-in on this?
They should be provided in advance,
Okay, so 48 hours would be an appropriate expectation?
at least.
Okay, so if moving forward,
48 hours.
could we have at least 48 hours notice with the documentation? And I think, I'm gonna put this out there because we often, during these meetings, we get documentation from a variety of different, involved community members and presenters, and that will go for that too, so that, the committee members have ample time, if you can get it to us before 48 hours, but at minimum 48 hours. So.
And I just want to make a comment on that because typically and we found this last year too, the first September report has your first warrant and your first payroll that were literally just cut. So we sometimes can't get the stuff to you. We were still looking at staffing at 5 o'clock yesterday. So that's why in this particular situation it is. Moving forward, it's not an issue. We typically have stuff ahead of time. But when we're in the very beginning of the school year, sometimes we can't comply with those because we don't have that information. And if you want accurate information, I could have provided it 2 days ago, but this report would have had negatives all over the place. And I did not want to do that. I wanted to have a nice, clean report with the staffing and the funding where it needed to be. And that's why you got it today.
Okay, Sharon, and then we're gonna move along.
If we post the agenda for the meeting, where do we stand legally if we just don't address things tonight?
That's okay. You can skip over items, and realistically, it's not real productive to have meetings that go on that late.
Yeah.
So if you can skip things, you should.
Okay.
My brain died about a half an hour ago.
All right, Sue?
I just want to say our policy book, I think, says 3 days. Ahead.
3 days.
72 hours.
We'll double check. All right. So let's get on to John. Can
Well,
you
there's
make
a motion on the floor and it's been seconded, so.
Yeah, so we have to take a vote. All in favor?
Motion-
Restate the motion, please.
So my understanding is the motion is to defer some of the items on the agenda at the advisement, on the advisement of the superintendent, or?
I think there's consensus. I'll withdraw the
Okay.
second withdraw. We
Okay,
can move
sure.
on, because Jim lasted longer than I did, but
Yeah, my headache's like this one.
So,
I
all in
always
favor
do.
of moving along based upon the superintendent's recommendations on items on the agenda? All in favor? Any
Say that
opposed?
again?
Just looking for consensus.
Yeah, okay. So everyone is in agreement. So, John, can you just guide us as to what we need to attend to this evening that is
We can skip over the lunch report, signing the warrants is done. Subcommittee reports, if anyone wants to sum up their subcommittee reports in like 30 seconds, does anybody have anything pressing they want to say?
Negotiation met, they are gonna meet again, everything's going good.
Okay.
Do you,
I can't.
do you want to go, I mean, this is up to you. Do you want to go back to those financial reports, budget transfers? Do you want to vote on that? So I think we can do the rest of this in like 5 to 10 minutes and the meeting will be over.
Include an executive session?
Except the executive session.
Yeah.
I think we could wrap the rest up in like 5 minutes,
Okay.
but.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay.
So I'm just going to continue really quickly. You have the September financial report in front of you. This is completely updated with our budget that was approved as of August 19th. The transfer you have in front of you is included in this, so all of our lines are funded appropriately. The only line that has a negative in it right now is the Pioneer salaries, and that's because when we carry forward our programming, our coaches are still coded to that. Suzanne will be getting those up to date, and that will go away on the next report, and those will be where they need to be. Other than that, again, email me with any questions if you have specifics on any lines. There's pennies here or there, plus or minus, and those will get cleaned up at some point. I'm not concerned about those. But we're off to a good start.
Do you want to make a motion?
So the budget transfer,
I'll make a
Yeah.
motion to accept the budget transfers.
Is there a second on the floor?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Abstained?
I trust my objection was noted in the discussion. You won't need
That's enough. We're trying to cut this short.
Okay.
I just want to say how amazing it is to have an up-to-date report at the end of the year.
Yes.
Thank you. Absolutely.
All right.
Tanya.
I don't think we need to discuss and vote on the Horace Mann tonight, right?
No, no.
Meeting.
We don't need to do the vote, but this is the yarn report that just needs
Old
to be
business,
updated.
the only thing is Leiden.
So, we received a request from, I'm guessing it's the Leiden Select Board.
That's right. Jeff Knight.
And Jeff Knight, being the chair. The request was that, they receive an electronic emailed copy of the intermunicipal agreement, for review before the committee votes on it. The finalized copy.
Okay, and it has our attorney seen that?
So, you've seen this.
Yep.
So I'm sorry, did you say the Leiden Select Board wants an electronic copy of the intermunicipal agreement before it gets voted on?
That's correct, that is their request. Go ahead.
So when we started this process, we were told that the select board would vote on it. If we made changes, the school committee could vote to accept ours, and then it would have to go back to the select board once the school committee voted on the version they wanted. I'm fine if they want to go back and look at that, but that was the process that we were advised on when the process of the intermunicipal started. So that both of them just have to vote by the end of the day.
I'm sorry?
Both of them just have to agree on it when all is said
Said
and
and
done.
done, okay. Legally, yes.
So somebody could send it to them. I have been in no contact with Leiden directly, so I don't
Okay.
know.
All right, so that process would be appropriate.
Yes, who would send it to them? Do you have their contact?
Stacy
could.
was forwarded over to them. The thought was that the school committee had the unmarked version and the marked version, and they can vote on whichever version they wanted, but in favor of time, you guys can table that to another.
Yeah, I think we should do the discussion and vote on chair and or vice chair attending town finance committee and town select board meetings and representing the school committee as a whole.
So, I received a request along with John from the 4 town finance committees to attend their meeting, and represent the school committee to engage in dialogue, answer questions. I consulted with Russell. Russell stated that, in order for myself or for the co-chair to do that, we would need to have a discussion and a vote, so that everyone on the committee was aware of this process, and what would be happening, and that either myself or Pat or whoever is in these roles, would be representing the school committee as a whole and being able to engage in that dialogue.
Should that be in the form of a policy also? Should we have a policy on that?
No, so when I was on a committee in my town, I was the vice chair, the chair and the superintendent we created a system where we would meet with the finance committees of the towns, or of our town in that case, basically as a liaison. So we'd go to their meetings and talk to them. They'd ask questions. We'd bring it back to the committee and say, here's things they're thinking about. Our budgets went more smoothly, actually, because of that. So it's not a bad idea to do it, but you need the committee to agree that, we had a vote that said we could go do it. You can't make decisions with the finance committee. All you can do is go and basically act as a liaison between the two bodies. That's how we operated.
Is there any questions?
I just want to say, having attended the 4 town meetings, it's been embarrassing, the lack of school committee attendance and availability to dialogue with our town representatives. And I would like the chair and the superintendent to please make an effort to do that, so that we can begin to repair the divide that people are feeling. And I trust them and you all to figure out how to relay information well. I mean, I've been there. It's not a complicated situation. They just want to feel heard.
Absolutely, and I agree with you, and that's why this matters on the table. It was not anything that we were not willing to do that. It's legally, we have to do this process in order for that to happen.
That was a surprise to me.
That was the advisement.
I wouldn't say, what I would say is it's not illegal if you've done it the other way, but I think it's better practice to talk to your committee before you go meeting with other boards, so.
You made my point.
Yeah, go ahead, Jen.
I think we should also, as committee members, be better at attending the town meetings when they have them. And if you feel as though you want to go to a select board meeting or a finance committee meeting, a school committee member should go also, if they choose to. Shouldn't be just the chair and the.
Okay. All right. Yes, go ahead, David.
The important thing being, when we do so, we're not acting on behalf of the committee. And so there really doesn't need to be any permission getting as long as that's,
It's a
the role
sharing
we're
of
running.
information.
Okay.
Yeah, collective.
So when I've gone to these meetings, I'm just listening. I'm just trying to hear, what people need and want and feel. It's my understanding, and Russell, will you clarify for me, that it's not really my role to speak at those meetings, where it would be your role, right, on our behalf.
Yes.
When I go, I'm listening.
Right. Yeah.
Information gathering. Do you want a motion?
Someone like to put a motion on the floor? Yeah.
I'm not doing a motion, but you can share ideas, or you can relay information back and forth. You're clearly acting as a liaison.
That's what
You're just not speaking on behalf of the whole school committee.
I think that there was a request to engage in dialogue.
Right. Yes.
And again, as a representative of the school committee, referencing to Russell for advisement to make sure that we are all on the same page in order to do this the most appropriate way. So, go ahead,
Yeah.
Karen.
You have a question?
I think one of the main points is when you get a request from a town select board or finance committee or for town setup in writing, it really is not my position to go when it's requested. It should come to the chair or the superintendent, and then you come to the committee and get permission to go, because you're getting requested formally. So I would take that as you're going to be asked questions.
And most recently, the invitation that I had received, there was agenda items saying that I was going to speak. So I did not feel comfortable doing that on behalf of the school committee without having this dialogue and conversation. That's why it's on the agenda.
And that's also me. I guess I got invited to the meeting, and I didn't receive an agenda, but I was on the agenda to present future plans for the district, and I don't feel comfortable, in all due respect to this committee, unless I present that to you first. So that's why I didn't attend.
Okay. So is there a motion on the floor?
Not
No?
yet,
No?
but,
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion that our committee chair, vice chair, or superintendent attend town finance committee, town select board meetings in representing the school committee as a whole.
Second.
I'd say as,
Can I clarify,
as,
is that the joint meeting of all the four towns, finance and select boards? Is that what
Be
you're
any
talking
individual.
about?
Be any
No, it could be one town.
Each individual.
Could be any of them.
Or all four. Or all of those.
Each
So
town.
it could. So the most recent invitation came from the four-town finance committee.
And select boards.
And select boards, thank you.
I'm not even so concerned about the motion. Really, all you needed to do was have a meeting, notify the committee you wanted to do it. Anybody has a real objection to it, say it, but otherwise, the chair and the vice chair and the superintendent could go to a meeting like this. But I think it's important to let you all know that's happening. And if you object to it, then certainly, state that, but I'm not so concerned about a motion to do so.
All right.
As a school committee member, I will meet with any board of selectmen in the district, any finance committee, and talk to any citizen, and you aren't gonna stop me, but I will not speak on behalf of the committee.
All right. Okay.
No objections? There was a motion. There's no
There's no second.
And
I'll
Russell
second. I'll
seconded.
second.
Okay, all right, let's
I
move on.
seconded.
We don't have to vote on it.
Yeah, that's
Russell
right.
said we don't have to vote on it.
Jim seconded.
Jim seconded, so all in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Okay. Moving on.
Let the staff changes.
Okay. Under old business, discussion and vote regarding whether to allow the Director of Finance to work remotely. As many people know, Tanya has relocated to Florida and has been continuing her employment and job as Director of Finance. In order to continue to move forward and develop an MOU, we have to take a vote on this as a committee as a whole.
Is there a date attached to this at all, or?
Clarify a date.
Discussion and vote regarding whether to allow the Director of Finance to work remotely, period. There's no,
For how long?
until the end of the
End date, no
contract.
end date.
Okay, so what's the date of that? Thank you. To me, that would be. You need a motion? Make a motion that we allow the Director of Finance to work remotely through the rest of her contract, which would end June 30th, 2020.
I would add subject to negotiation. You have to negotiate what the terms of that will be, but that would be an executive session if you vote in favor.
We have to develop the MOU.
Then why
So
is
is
it
that what the
here?
executive session's for? Why don't we have that
Yeah,
first?
really.
See if we can negotiate it.
Well, I think
That's why there's
publicly you have to decide, are you going to allow it subject to reaching terms? Just like you would with a superintendent contract, for example.
I second the motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Of what?
Of the contract.
Okay.
To negotiate.
Everybody? Okay. Opposed? Any abstainments? No? Okay.
I just love the way it's worded, to work remotely, like that. So, are you gonna be somewhere off?
So now we can go into executive.
Yeah.
All right.
I think we should table everything else, like the vote, and
Yeah.
don't put it up
Yeah.
Warwick,
Good
anything
idea.
like that, just, everything else is, just go into
It's over.
executive sessions.
Okay.
Can I just respond to that? Sure. That's a tremendous, I'm happy to table that, of course, those votes are, but that's a tremendous amount of angst that's being created by doing this over and over and over again for everyone, everyone in the
Yes.
district. So I feel like if this is gonna happen, we need to know why, what's going
Can't
on.
just be
This
seen
gets
on
put on
the
an agenda 2 days
agenda
before a
last
meeting, the reconsideration of the Warwick Community School vote.
Go ahead.
So we're gonna get
Hold
into
on,
a
can I
discussion
just
on
ask
that.
you to use the microphones closer so that everybody can hear?
We're sorry.
Thank
Go ahead,
you.
David.
Yeah, related to this, I see no place where the school committee has any authority to take up a vote to close a school. The school committee doesn't have this authority under the district agreement, and the school committee does not have this authority under the acts of 2018. The commissioner may undertake a review. The law lines out 3 things, the review among them. The law makes absolutely no provision for even polling the school committee of its opinion. It just doesn't exist. So I would contend that the acts of 2018 will hold any person who takes official action contrary to these acts personally liable. And I think our council should study this for us. We don't have the authority to close a school.
Mike?
I think the reason both those items were put on the agenda, the one for voting on the charter school and voting on the discussion to close Warwick School, we need to look at the future, FY '20 and '21. Student enrollment's dropping, including Warwick's. We need to start making plans We're gonna be back in budget process. We don't need to wait till April or March to make final decisions, and everybody's up in arms that we waited until March to do it. There was gonna be discussion, possible vote. I wrote here to table it till next October, or to this October, because there's not enough information on this charter school thing. We couldn't even get a district agreement taken care of. And we're gonna bless a charter school in 2 months? That's unheard of, it's crazy. We do know that the student enrollment, we know that we're possibly gonna be looking at 6th grade, coming to the middle school. We need to start looking at these things. The numbers, Pioneer's numbers, you look at the total student enrollment here,
We're discussing something.
it's crazy.
Excuse me, right, we've tabled these for this meeting?
But the statement was made.
It's referring this to council, who I supplied the acts of 2018. This committee has no authority, and I think before a committee member acts, we should have advice of council. In fact, I think the committee should have access to council in a number of these questions, which we don't have, and I personally don't want to have to hire my own lawyer to stay out of trouble. It's not appropriate for me to go to town council because I'm a representative of the district.
That's right, the district.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I did look at the legislation that David sent me, and I would say he is correct. The way it's worded is that the commissioner may undertake a review. So the committee, although I think DESE intended that the committee should be looking at these type of issues, right now, the way this is worded, I would say they didn't actually change the requirement for the committee, they changed it for the commissioner. So you'd still have to go through the regional agreement. I'm not sure the commissioner intended that by this, but in reading it, I don't see anything that gives the committee by itself the right to do it without following your current regional agreement. So I think you could be in contact with DESE about that, but that is the way it reads. I think the most you could possibly do is have a vote to, potentially you could request that the commissioner review or commence the review. You can ask for clarification, but I'd say this language is, it doesn't say anything about a committee vote or committee being able to vote.
In being part of writing that legislation, there is a section that talks about omitting a certain section out of that about educating kids in their whatever. We did have to provide the studies that were done and all of that to the state when we were doing this. So essentially it did come down to the commissioner approving our stuff for Leiden. So I'm not sure if when this comes back again or doesn't come back again or whatever, depending on the Horace Mann decision, I think the committee needs to vote to present a study to the commissioner, and then the commissioner needs to take a vote if that's what.
I think my recommendation would be talk to the commissioner's office, determine how he wants you to proceed, but I would say this is not something that, no matter what, obviously the commissioner is voting on this, but it appears that the ability to review and close a building is going to be with a commissioner. Now, he may say, well, my review entails the committee voting, all these other things, but the language by itself technically doesn't actually say the committee would do the review itself. So,
Okay, so I'll do that follow-up and reach out to the commissioner and ask for that clarification and guidance. Okay. I'm sorry?
I wanted to get was a committee decision or your decision?
Reach out to the commissioner. Well, the advisement has been to do that.
I move we follow council's advice.
Yeah, especially when it's your favor.
Okay, all
You
in
got
favor
it.
of that?
And you're the one who said our meeting's too long,
Okay.
and you keep making it
All
longer.
in favor of David's motion? Is there Opposition? Abstaining?
I make a
Okay.
motion to go into executive.
Okay.
Executive session for the purpose of, detrimental, are we doing both this? They have to do it?
So we gotta come in and out?
Kristen, did we vote on the intermunicipal agreement?
No, we can't, because the request was that they get it first before we vote on it.
Yeah.
All right. Can someone make a motion, please, so that we can go?
I make a motion that we go into executive session.
You gotta state the purpose, you gotta state whether we're coming out again.
Are you doing,
I'm doing number 8. No, 7. No, 17. 17.
Roman numerals are hard.
Number 17.
Could you please just read the motion out loud?
I make a motion that we go into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law C-30A S-21A2 to conduct strategy and preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, that is the Director of Finance, and to conduct negotiations with non-union personnel, i.e. the Director of Finance, and to return to open session.
Second.
Yeah, I know, but we're gonna work on this one. Okay.
And inviting in
And inviting in,
Director of Finance, myself.
yep, the Director of Finance and the Superintendent.
And the Superintendent and Council.
And the Secretary and Legal Counsel.
the secretary can't stay?
It's too
I'm not
late. All right, I'll take the notes.
Yeah.
Ready?
I started 3 times.
Okay, we're back into open session.
David, make the thing.
You want me to move it?
Yep.
All right, I don't have it in front of me. I move that we approve the
Director of Finance.
the addendum to the Director of Finance's contract, employment contract, and the key components are 1 public hearing, which is the budget hearing, 6 school committee meetings, and the scheduling of her attendance would be done through the superintendent's office. And we removed participation to, what's that one there?
It says remote participation.
Oh, remote. And we expect remote participation in other school committee meetings.
Till June 30th?
And the term is, today's date is the beginning and through June 30th.
Second.
All in favor? That's everybody. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
So
Oh,
you,
we have another one? He has to leave.
If an open meeting should have a detrimental effect
Pat,
on
can you use the
the
mic, please?
position of the committee and the chair.
Can you stand that with the mic, please?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Well, these are gotta go on.
I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss strategy in respect to litigation.
And to return to open session.
And to return to open session as soon as that's done.
Okay, roll call vote.
Tim Bell, Bernardston, yes.
Abby Pratt, Iden, yes.
Still around the Kermode, yes.
Seth Kratz, Northfield, yes.
Jessica Marshall, yes.
Jeannie Milton, Bernardston, yes.
David Young, North Warwick, yes.
Sure, in Northfield. Yes.
Kristen Gonzalez, Northfield, yes.
Mike Townsley, Bernardston, yes.
Sharon Fontaine Lyden, yes.
East Lytton or West Lytton?
East.
All right, sorry, Tyler, we have
Upper
to
East.
ask you to leave again.
I'll show you to the door.
Are the cameras off and the mics off?
Are you, you don't have to go back into open session. You could have voted to just adjourn.
Get the defibrillator.
Okay, we're returning to open session.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
It's unanimous.
Yes, it's unanimous.